gotta clean the garbage out of your car.
Quit wrecking my...
In Red Deer, Alberta,
Remember, Mike, we're here to promote the auction, not to buy any more stuff.
Mike and Avery are headed to a car auction,
I am buying nothing.
but bidding is not on the agenda.
You have a fever.
I'm here to promote my auction, and it's coming up about a month from now. Oh, you couldn't have got any closer to the curb.
Now I can't help it.
Do a little bit of hobnob, shake some hands. Wow,
Look at the stuff, man.
look at the Riviera.
Hey, you know what, Mike? You just keep your hands clapping. Keep them in your pocket.
What else we got here?
Hey, no bidding.
No, I'm not
Wait,
bidding
wait.
on.
Todd Schwinn from EG Auctions is the organizer of today's event.
That's some cool stuff. Hey, Todd.
Hey, how are ya?
Last month,
Todd, you're here. You're the problem solver, little buddy.
Mike and Avery called Todd in to discuss two other sales.
I see more cars here that I never seen before.
Mike's auction plans were cut and dry,
Most of this stuff has to go.
Holy Avery.
but Avery can't go ahead until he whips his yard into shape.
I can't even photograph this stuff unless we get these weeds down.
Today, they're plugging Mike's sale, which is a month before Avery's potential date.
It's awesome to have you here, but our registrations are still low. We want as much exposure as we possibly can here. The more people you have registered to bid online and coming, the better you'll do. Promote, promote, promote.
Sounds good, Todd.
Cheers,
Okay,
thanks.
ciao, bud. Beauty with Todd, he's got a huge base to draw from. One man's junk is another man's gold. Any additional buyers or prospective buyers that we can round up, good for Todd, good for us.
Are you aware that we are having another auction?
No, I wasn't aware of
It's
that.
online. The more people you have registered and the more people you should have bidding.
It's online, and you can come in person and see it if you want.
The only thing it takes to make a great auction is two guys want the same car. Oh, look at this.
Mike,
What?
get over here. You know what? We're here to promote our own auctions. Keeping Mike focused?
That is nice.
Impossible.
Somebody grab my wallet.
It's worse than a kid in a candy store.
I wonder what this one's gonna go for, Ave.
It'll go for cash, Mike.
The building is full of cool stuff. There's Mopars, Chevys, Fords, Buick. This thing's cool. And it's a GMC, made in Canada. I used to have a two-wheel drive one. I regret selling mine. One that really catches my eye, it's a 71 GMC Jimmy. I'm a sucker for a convertible. Oh, look at this one. Here we go. Ooh, baby. My 572 would look good in there. I'd have to do a little work. Needs a 12-volt. I mean, it still has drum brakes. The 66 Malibu Rag. It's got all the SS trim. And again, I got a soft spot for convertibles.
Welcome to EG Collector Car Auctions. With that, folks, we're going to take a look here at a 50cc bike. What a beauty.
Didn't you want one of these?
I got one.
How much?
I paid $2,000 for mine.
Everybody goes to an auction to get a great deal. But I mean, it's easy to get carried away and bid way more than what you want. You get auction fever.
Now 7, now 8. 800, Matty, got to be 800, 800.
I do not like going to auctions, but I mean, I like to see what people bid on certain cars. It just gives me a value of what some of my stuff's worth.
This is lot 107, that 1971 GMC Jimmy. 5 down 10, 10 down 10,000, here down 10, 10. Down 10,
What are you doing?
15 now, 15,000, 75 now.
Okay, 18. No! Avery.
Mike, you're a chowderhead.
18, 19, see it there, down to Avery.
Holy Mike!
Sold. 19.5.
You're an idiot.
Sold, gone.
Mike's lost his mind. What's he trying to do? Trying to give Todd some more money.
It's a 1966 Chevrolet Malibu. I'm going to 25.6. I'm going to 25. I'm going to 27.
Too much. Up in.
It's a super sport grab a hold. Yes, good work.
Are you on glue?
That's it. Once more. That's it. I'm done. Sell the thing.
Sold.
That's it. I'm done. I'm down 50 grand here in about 20 minutes. Sold. I don't know what happened.
You're supposed to buy nothing. I'm putting them up for sale
No,
already.
no.
Oh, side. How do you think we're gonna do in a sale?
You guys plugged the auction.
Yes.
Had a huge spike in registered bidders.
Is that true or you just blowing smoke
No,
up our
that
ass?
is true. I'm
Okay.
not.
We promote the hell out of the auction. Everybody knows round 2 is coming up. Okay, thanks again,
Thanks,
Todd.
guys.
It was great,
Thanks,
man.
Avery.
Excellent. Avery, you want to go for a hair straight back trip through the Rockies?
No! I don't like your driving.
So, Sarah,
A few days later, at Russ Bros,
I told Todd by today I would have the full list.
Okay.
Mike and Sarah are finalizing which cars he'll put up for auction in a few weeks.
So the Mustang's going for parts. The Beaumont's going. Hopefully we got a lot of Volkswagen freaks. As soon as we get the list and the pictures to Todd, he can post them. The more people get a chance to look, the more people are going to register. The Russ Brothers Demo Derby car. This is going. We're running out of time. This yard has to be clean. The church wants it back. So tick-tock. Merc's going, the Dodge truck's going. I cannot keep any more cars than what'll fit behind my shop. This is not going.
Because it's a Cornet.
Oh, you go, girl. If I'm gonna keep cars, they're all gonna be the same thing. Coronets, the RTs, the Super Bs.
So how many Cornets is there that you're keeping?
Any 68, 69, 70. They're all basically Dodges. All the parts interchanged between those 3 years, except for the fenders. Oh, I've been looking for years. Now I know where it went. That way I can get rid of all the rest of the parts for all the cars I don't have. I'm trying to make it simple.
What about the Cornet wagon?
Lincoln would never forgive me. He spent many happy years.
Wagon not in auction.
Wagon not in auction. I was gonna sell the 70 Coronet wagon, but Lincoln loves that thing. It was his doghouse for a couple years.
Did you hear that, baby Lincoln?
You're not homeless. I mean, that wagon is probably one of the rarest cars I own. But I mean, it's got some sentimental value. What can I say?
Pinky?
Pinky's
And the Merc?
going, no reserve. The Roadrunner's going, no reserve. I mean, I'm letting go a lot of my dreams here, Sarah.
You are.
How many cars are there total? Last time we had the auction, I got rid of 500 cars. 82 cars.
Okay.
I mean, the fact there's fewer cars, I'm sure there's gonna be fewer people. My biggest fear is if it's an open auction, no reserve, all this stuff goes for nothing. Either that or crush 300 grand worth of cars.
Is there anything else that's not here that you could pull to sell?
Okay, let's not get carried away.
You got a pickle in your pocket?
Just happy to see you.
Later that morning, outside Barrier, BC,
Tell a pickle by the juice. And that's gonna be a good pickle.
Give me a piece of that.
Well, let's see what Russell's up to.
Mike and Avery are on their way to meet with an old friend.
It looks like he's progressively getting more and more stuff.
Hey, how goes it, Russ? We're having another auction.
We're here to see if you want to take and throw some stuff in.
We need more cars.
And you're just coming to me now?
Well, you're lucky we even invited you.
I mean, I don't make a cut off it. It's just, if we can get more cars, it's gonna generate more interest, more people, more money. I'm sure you've been looking at your junk for the last 20 years. What do you want to get rid of?
Want to go for a walk?
Okay, what stuff you got, Russ? Russell, he's got a field full of cars. I know his old lady really wants him to get rid of some.
Well, here's one that could go. Look at the patina on this thing, man. Beautiful.
Put it in the auction. What are you gonna do with it?
I don't know, it's just too freaking cool.
Russell's like me, he's a hoarder. What about this one? Nice parts car.
No.
Why not?
No.
Get rid of it, take the money, finish something else.
Hey, that hunk of there's worth money. Sell it.
Ram Charger.
I always liked these.
I'll sell to you cheap, and then you can put it in the auction.
Russell, if you want to get in, hop on board, the train's leaving.
You got an easy 50 grand sitting out here. I don't know why you don't just sell it all.
Right.
But you got a week to make up your mind. Happy wife, happy life.
I don't
Let's go. Let's get out of here.
After leaving Russell's empty-handed,
Let's see what's going on here. Hello? Hiya.
Mike and Avery arrive at Dub's Customs
Hey! Hey! Hey!
James!
to try to recruit James West.
I recognize those voices. What are you guys doing?
We're having an auction.
Your yard looks pretty full. Don't you need some space? James, he can always use cash. He's got to keep the lights on. He's got to keep the bills paid. And I keep seeing the same junk out back. It never moves.
I don't really like to sell stuff, Mike.
What do you got?
I don't know.
I see 2 or 3 vehicles
Let's
over there.
entertain the thought of maybe.
I mean, if you can sell 10, 15 grand worth of stuff that's been sitting there, that gives them a 2-3 month float. What about the Land Rover? What are you doing with it?
I love it, though.
What about this?
I bought that at the auction.
68 Coronet 500 convertible. I regret selling it.
I had to fight for that car, and if I put that in an unreserved auction, I can lose my shirt.
Or you could make
Well, that
money.
ain't a very good shirt you're wearing right there right now. Like, you can sell some of that and buy a new shirt.
I know James really loves the Coronet, but it's not something you're gonna tear apart and totally transform. I mean, the thing's gonna be restored, and that's not the type of build James does.
So it's like rolling the dice, and you
Yeah,
just
well,
never
it's
know.
rolling the dice. Well, I rolled the dice with 500 of them.
I'm on the fence right now.
Okay. He's not that enthused, but I mean, I planted the seed. Hopefully, it grows some roots. Thanks, James. Better for me, it's better for them, it's better for the auction. Think of all the space you'll have to fill with better...
Get rid of that stuff.
You're being awfully secretive here, boss.
Oh, it's gonna be big, let me tell you.
An hour later,
It is something that I have been dreaming about for a while.
I love a good surprise.
James and his crew are visiting a local scrapyard.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, check it out. Oh. This thing, big old caddy. This 1955 Cadillac is the perfect candidate for our next crazy build. It's got a footprint like no other.
Slated to be crushed a few days ago, James bought this Fleetwood Series 60 sight unseen for $2,500.
We need to step out on a limb to really make sure that people know who we are. Get this business to grow.
So what are you thinking here?
I want to build the biggest, most outlandish thing on the street. It's getting harder and harder to be on the cutting edge of custom. You gotta go over and above. It's jacked, it's straight axle, put tires this wide on it, great big side pipes, something gnarly, and build this thing into like
Street freak.
a street freak.
I like it.
I heard about an awesome custom gasser show. Great exposure, boost, Dubs Customs. Following me?
You want the wow, but you want it bigger.
You know, I always go bigger. The show is right around the corner. There's gonna be tons of talented builders there, so it would be great to showcase Dubs' latest build.
Let's look at this thing.
Building a street freak gives me open creativity to build absolutely anything that I want,
That's gonna be a fixaroo.
but we still have a lot of work ahead of us.
Well, there's no floor.
What is this seat even sitting on?
It's sitting right on the frame. This build is a huge risk. There's going to be hundreds of hours fabricating, welding.
Okay, back to the shop.
It could make or break the shop.
Okay, I think we're clear there.
The Dubs crew is getting right to work on disassembly.
Yeah.
It's free.
All right, well, let's get it out of here.
With the frame and engine disconnected,
Let's get rid of this.
they can attack the car's biggest missing piece.
All right, let's have a look at this floor. Watch your
What
head.
floor?
We're just really trying to get rid of all of the scabbiness, all of the rust, so we can really start getting a game plan to put this floor in.
Sounds good. This Cadillac body is in rough shape. We have a ton of work to do on all these rotten spots before we can get to anything else.
This isn't
That
looking
looks
good.
bad.
The door sill, it's looking pretty rough. We'll take the plate off to see how bad it is. There we go. A hole big enough to sink a ship right there.
That's pretty bad.
There is nothing left. We have absolutely no structural integrity in this car right now. Look at it.
Jesus.
We're definitely gonna have to brace it and start squaring this thing back up. Is that gonna stay there? Oh boy.
Ooh.
Hear that? You see that just open up?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Like that moved
I know, and the rocker
significantly.
just split open right here too. If that collapsed, this car comes down.
There's nothing holding this car together right now.
I'm gonna have to address this like pretty quick.
We really just need to rebuild this whole door sill.
So many little bends. I bet you we'll be at this for a week. Now, for the fun to start.
At Dubs Customs,
Slide your end in, right up over that cross member there.
James and Rachel are installing the floor on their Cadillac Street Freak, but have a lot of reinforcing work to make it hold.
Yeah.
You have no support in this corner. I'll start making the parts. I'll try to stay ahead of you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Without that structural integrity in the door frame, the car is sagging in the corner. So we need to get fabbing these pieces by hand.
They need to completely rebuild the rusted out door sill.
Gotta sneak in there for 1 second.
Oh, yeah.
When we go and weld that, we can just blend it and it'll all look like it's one piece. One piece of the puzzle at a time. It's an outstanding amount of work, and we definitely have a long way to go. Hey, Rach.
What are you up to?
Well, I've been putting a lot of thought into this frame, and I think that we need to do something crazy, and that's going to be raise this car up like 24 inches. And to do that, we've got to build some kind of crazy center drop.
So we're essentially rebuilding the whole frame for this.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Okay.
To get the look that I want with this, I've got to build a custom frame from scratch. It's making that statement on the street.
This is a lot of welding and metalwork.
We need this.
James is a perfectionist, and I totally get it. This showcase is coming up really quickly. It's pretty ambitious to do in a short amount of time.
It's going to be absolutely just amazing. It is a gamble, but this frame is going to put Dubs on the map. We're going to build this, we're going to try it, we're going to see if it works.
I'm in.
Hey, Jean-Francois, ça va, mon ami?
Over in Tappan, Mike is cold calling his friend JF,
I'm having another auction. If you want to list a couple things and you feel lucky,
hunting for more cars for his auction.
but it's got to be no reserves. It's no reserve auction.
Right. I haven't won one of those deals yet.
I mean, we're down to the last 12, 13 days, and James says he's thinking about it. Russell's seesawing. And so far, nobody's actually sent us pictures and said they're coming. Okay, you'll let me know?
I know the drill. Thanks for the call.
Thanks, bud.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. I'm hoping they step up to the plate. Time is money. And the more time people have to look at what you've got, the more money you're going to generate it at the auction. Oh, time.
That afternoon,
James, you brought her back.
James has brought in his beloved 68 Coronet from Mike's auction.
Things change.
I know.
I could use the money more right now. It was a tough decision, but I decided to take Mike's advice. If the Coronet sells at the auction, I can put that money into the Street Freak build.
Okay, are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Just the fact we've got another rare Mopar B body and it's a rag top, it's just gonna add a little more excitement. Okay, have a good one, James.
All right, Mike.
Once it's in the yard, it's like I own it already. Ooh, baby. I hate auctions. I'd love to own it back, but I mean, I don't need any more. I'm supposed to be selling.
A few hours later,
Hi there!
What the frig is that?
Russell arrives with his own contribution.
It's a 1970 Travco motorhome.
I'd say it's a 1972 travesty of a motor. I thought Russell would be bringing some of his cars. He shows up with this monstrosity of a motorhome.
It's got the coolest sign. Okay, it says the Dodge Mahal.
No,
Yeah.
great from Chrysler, Dodge Mall.
I'll trade you this for the 70 Roadrunner. What? Listen, it's a good deal for me.
Russ, back this POS over here and get it offloaded. Anyway, it is a cool piece. Whether or not it sells at the auction, I don't know. But I mean, it's gonna bring out more bidders. Who's driving this GMC? Oh, it's the little Frenchman.
Michael,
JF.
I brought you a good, reliable automobile you might want.
High-end car builder J.F. Lanier has also come through.
We need to find a spot for this one because it's super nice.
I know if JF's bringing anything to the auction, it's gonna be some good stuff. Oh, look at that.
Somebody's got to class the place up. Come on.
Well, you
now.
know it ain't me or Avery. Okay, other way, just about. Okay, straight back. I don't make anything off of these people bringing their cars. Go park it up top there. It's not gonna get hurt. It's just the more people, the more cars, the better it is for all of us. What's coming here?
More auction cars?
Michael,
Uh-oh.
What's in there?
Stan! Come back another day.
hey,
Stan could not pick worse timing.
What did you bring? I'm guessing it's not more cars for the auction.
A 71 Jimmy and a 66 Chevelle convertible.
SS convertible. I mean, every time I buy something from out of town and it shows up, the kid's here. Okay, just drive right up there and then we'll unload it.
Okay.
Basically, I can't even run an eye.
Why are you still buying stuff?
I didn't try. I went to the auction. I raised my card 3 times. I bought 2 cars. Then I ripped.
Weird. If you raise your paddle at an auction, you buy things. Who would have thought?
Well, I was just trying to help Todd out and bump up the prices.
Oh, yeah.
I was.
We're trying to sell all our cars. We're throwing a second auction, and there's still stuff rolling in.
It says heartbeat on the seats.
I know.
My dad has a disease. Is anything I say or do gonna change him? No.
Let's go for a top-down cruise.
Next summer when there's insurance on it.
Dad!
No.
I'll tell Mom what you paid for them.
You're such a...
Now that we got our plans drawn up and the steel's finally arrived, it's time to get after it.
I'll grab my helmet.
At Dub's Customs, James and Rachel are starting work on a custom frame for the Street Freak build.
We're building every piece from scratch. We need this frame to stand out. Start somewhere around there.
Perfect.
One person holds, you toss the bolt in. It'll go fast. 20-foot long, drop center section, ladder bar suspension, gasser front axle. What could be better than that? How's it looking?
Looks pretty good. Probably need to be that way a hair.
With the frame complete, they need to test fit it to the Cadillac body.
Okay, hit it.
We're building a monster.
That looks amazing. The frame just elevated it to something totally different. Something we've never seen, something we've never done. Really cool.
This is what I've been telling you.
I never doubt you. I'm hesitant, but I never doubt you.
The frame fits, but that's not the only thing that we need to build.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Everything? Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Russell is busy with Mike's auction, so Rachel and I are tackling this build on our own. Rachel, I've got another crazy idea.
6 mufflers?
3 per side. We're gonna weld 3 of these together to make the inner structure of the side pipes. Get a piece of angle iron. In the custom world, it's getting harder and harder to surprise people. Okay, you've got to think out of the box to get noticed. Probably gonna be the biggest muffler on any vehicle ever. That was it, right to the end?
Right through. There we go.
We have to pay a lot of attention to detail to get this right. When you put fuel here and you add sparkage here, you get flamage there. Woo. You can't have a street freak without flames. I've never done flaming exhaust before. Here, let's go through and then I'll spin. I just hope that it works. Look at that. We got side pipage.
That's gonna be awesome.
Now it's time to spend some attention on the body.
Scrub-a-dub-dub.
By the looks of it, it hasn't been washed in 20 to 30 years.
That's for sure.
The goal is going to be taking a lot of this oxidization off. It's still blue under there.
It's bath time, buddy.
This car may look rusty, but what's underneath is actually a beautiful patina. Cleaning up the paint job that Mother Nature created saves us so much money. A little bit of dirt never bothers anybody.
I do like when your vision comes to life.
There he is, right on time. Todd, ready for round 2?
Here we go. I can't believe we're doing this again.
At Russ Bros, it's the day before Mike's auction.
What we're thinking here is taking the truck and backing it in this way so we can have people over here and people over here. All right, let's get her done.
Todd and his crew have arrived to set up for the big event.
Like last time we kind of had a raft around.
Hey guys, some of the cars are gonna be put up for auction, no reserve.
Wait. I didn't hit record yet.
All the prep work's done, but what really gets auctions going is people out there bidding against each other.
Stop right there. Avery, look at the camera. Ready?
I have no idea how many people are gonna turn out. Hopefully it's a lot.
Go.
Hey guys, a couple of these cars are gonna be put up no reserve. Some of these I've been hanging on to for a long time. 1967 Acadian, one of 357 ever made. It's a super rare piece of Canadiana. It could be yours if the price is right.
But wait, there's more. Lincoln, he's not for sale, sorry.
Right here, we have a very solid 1946 Merc, another piece of Canadiana. 1965 Beaumont custom convertible, one of 215 ever made. They're all going unreserved, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. People come because it's no reserve. That means whatever they bid, if they're high bidder, they get the car. There's nothing you can do about it.
Russ Valley auction, number 2. Everything's got to go.
BC means bring cash.
And hey, bring me a sandwich.
Shall I crank it?
Is there any power in that
I don't
battery?
know, we're gonna find out.
It's an hour until Mike's auction begins, and he's trying to make every car count,
Go, Don.
I hear you.
including Lincoln's former doghouse.
Lincoln. Thought I told Todd to take the 1970 Coronet wagon off the auction. I guess he didn't. All of a sudden, there's a lot of people asking questions. There's a lot of interest in it.
All right, again?
Okay. Lincoln's got a better doghouse right now. He sleeps on my bed. So we're gonna try and fire it up, and if it runs, it's gonna raise the price.
Hang on.
I didn't say burn into the ground. I'm gonna start calling you Avery. Come on, blow it out. Like you're supposed to put it in the car, Don. Holy, it's hard to get good help. Here, you go turn the key. You melted my sriracha bottle. Let me just try filling up the float bowl somewhat.
She's a runner, Mike.
Got a couple cars running. Everything's labeled, everything's organized. There's always more to do, but I mean, basically, it's time to rock and roll.
Sound good? Check 1, 2.
All right, that sounds good.
Been up since 4:30. Ooh. Good thing they won't give me a bidder's card. There's probably gonna be some really good deals here. People are showing up left, right, and center. They're lining up to register. Hopefully it's gonna be a good day. Make it look like a car anyway. Doesn't that look better?
Yeah.
I'm having seller's regret before it even starts.
I think we're ready for the auction now.
Vultures are circling the carcass. You can tell who your true friends are. Your true friends, if you're having an auction, they'd stay away. Russell, he's got his costume on. He's a character. He can't help himself.
I'll pay $1,000 if we get to cut Mike's hair today.
Nope. Great White Shark shows up looking for some easy pickings.
Morning.
Jay Apps is here. My friend, come to steal from me. It's not gonna go for what I got into it, but it's pretty cool. Bid high, bid long. All of my cars that are going up for auction are worth whatever somebody's willing to pay today. That's all it's worth, not a penny more.
You know we got 1 minute, eh?
Yeah, roll the dice. Hopefully it's boxcars, not snake eyes.
My dad hates selling stuff, but at the end of the day, he knows we're at a storage room, so let him go.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
What are you doing? Why are you writing lot numbers on your hand?
Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, we are ready. Here we go. Lot number 1 is a 1950 Pontiac 4-door parts car right here. No engine, no frame, guys. Sold on a bill of sale. How about her?
It's not starting off that good.
At 50 and 75. First car of the day is going to be sold for under $100, guys. So gone. Here is 2.
Anytime you throw an auction, everything kind of starts out slow.
It is a 1965 Ford Ranchero. This is the shell only. All right.
That's why you don't put the big dollar cars right away.
25, 25, 25, 25. I'm looking for $50 on the Ranchero shells.
Hey,
Sold gone. $25. You got her.
There's going to be some ups, there's going to be some downs.
geez, I'm up to $75 already. Don.
There's a couple that I know my dad's a little stung about.
We got a 78 Ford Bronco full size. Got the hydraulic plow. Go. 2,800. You betcha. There's a buy for you, sir.
That's a smoking deal for that.
I know.
For him to watch some of these cars go that he had 5 to 10 grand into that are going for $2,500, it's going to hurt anybody.
So $700. So $650.
But you're not having an auction to make top dollar on every vehicle you have. You're having an auction to get rid of a lot all at once. So hopefully the aggregate of everything is pretty good. But until the smoke settles, we won't know.
Here is your 1970 Plymouth Cornet station wagon.
Oh.
$6,000.
Lincoln's dog.
Now 6. Now 3, 4. Now 3. Now 3,000. Now 35.
Come on.
Sold $57.50.
What do you do it for?
Down $6,000. Here down between half an ounce.
You're doing okay.
Well, every auction starts off slow, but I mean, the prices are starting to go up. Some of the stuff is going for good bucks.
At least we can buy Lincoln a lot of dog food with the price of his doghouse.
How are you doing, Mike?
So far, I'm not crying.
1941 Dodge 3-window business coupe, all original, ultra rare, and down 2 down 7 down 2 then 32 down 5 then 3
People see some good stuff going. There's a couple of close fought battles.
down 4 then down 4 sold $37.50.
James stole that Dodge Coupe. You know what I paid for that car? $10,000. The guy got a smoking deal.
A 1968 Plymouth Satellite Sport, guys. So $5,100 today. 1967 Pontiac Acadian sold $52.50.
That one I'm taking a kicking on. This moment, I wish that some of them I had to put a reserve on. So, I mean, I'm not happy, but that's the risk you take when you have an unreserved auction.
71 Plymouth.
That's a rare car. 383.
Well, it looks like they're getting a rare price for it.
So there you go, $7,600.
Some you're just gonna take a whipping on.
1946 Mercury convertible shell.
You better buy that one, Donnie. Not for me, but I got 12,000 into it. I paid 12,000 for that.
45,750. Sold 4,500.
Ouch. That one's a stinger. JF, that thing's rust free.
I know, that's why I want it.
It was worth 20 all day long.
$50.
Be nice to make a couple bucks on one of them.
You gotta pump your up a little.
I think if my old man gets up and shares some details about some of these cars, the numbers will come up.
Here's lot number 76, your 1941 Dodge 3-window businessman coupe.
hey.
They're calling it the Pinky.
This car has some history. The guy owned it 50 years. He was building it in memory of his aunt, whose name was Pinky. There's nothing but expensive parts. This car, Pinky, is a special car. There was 80 grand into it. I mean, I've got 21,000 into it. I'm really hoping I at least break even on this car.
Moving to 20,000, now 19,500, now 20. 19,000, now 20,000, now 20,000, now 20,000, sold 30,000.
There you go, Mike. Good to see
That's
you,
the only car I ever bought off you I made money on. I'm quite happy. I made almost 10,000 bucks off the car, and somebody's gonna finish it. It's too nice a piece to just sit there and age.
1970 GMC is that blue one, isn't it? Buy right. 31, 30 pounds, 31. So 36,000 today.
Right on. Boom, the blue truck went for 36,000. I wanted 30 grand. I made a few bucks. It was a win for me.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a 1970 Dodge Swinger.
The first car we did, Mike.
It is
Yep,
the
there we
first
go.
18 pound out of 18.5. What are you thinking? 18.5, 18,750. So 18.5.
Oh, that's not bad. Well, things are happening now. The money's coming out.
1968 Dodge Charger sold 20,000 internet.
Some of the stuff is going for stupid money.
1968 Dodge Charger RT Shell. So $7,500.
I got 30 grand out of those two Chargers. That made up for a lot of the other disappointments.
1962 Mercury Monterey convertible.
Mike's friends' cars are up next.
17,000, 17,500. It's 17,000, we'll be the final 17,000, 17,500, 17,000, 17,200. That one goes 17,000. Can't believe that steal.
JF, I know the one was a hard sell. It was very cool build, but I mean, nobody would pay.
Here's lot number 120. Your 1966 Cornet 500.
My Cornet's up now. Come on, keep them bids up. Just a little bit more out of it.
10,000, 2.5, 10,500. Sold. 10 250s.
Well, that's not a bad deal.
James, I think, was quite happy. It's just nice to get a whack of cash. I know he's got a real serious build he's trying to finish.
This is 69 Dodge Travco motorhome ready to go. 275.3. So Sorrento, $300 today.
Basically, that Dodge Mahal, you can't expect to get money for nothing. That's what it's worth.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being part of the sale today. We are going to see you at the next big event at Avery's Collection.
Oh, thank God it's over. What did we sell, 80 cars?
Yeah, we sold 80 cars, yeah. So our total sales, 400,000. That includes some of the other consigners.
Yep.
So between last year and this year, your aggregate is...
Basically a million
it's
bucks.
$1 million. Plus you've kept cars that I know that you kept, that you told me you didn't keep, but I know you kept them.
I got another $500,000 worth of junk laid around.
So I think that's good, man. I'm happy for you.
I think it's good. I would say today's auction was a massive success. Hopefully Avery does as good at his auction as I did at mine. Thanks, Todd.
All right, thanks, Todd.
I gotta go. We have already got guys starting to load stuff.
Nice job.
Hey, let's go. Last year, I've gotten rid of 600 cars, and they've all gone to good homes. I caretook them, I protected them, I saved them. I've done my job. It's time for them to move on. It's like the mother spider, and you know, and all the little spiders come out, and then the little, what do you call it? They spin their little things, and they all just blow away in the wind, and off they go, never to return.
Tell me when I'm in the middle of the roof. Hey, go straight up, straight up.
Everybody said I couldn't do it. You can change, it's just hard.
Where's your truck and trailer?
I know he's keeping most of his really good cars. Hopefully he takes this money and puts it into those, and we end up with some nice, built, finished cars out of the deal.
What is this?
I don't know.
Why is our cars... Why, Mike,
I know nothing.
We just got a total of the dollar amount from Todd. And there's already showing up on trailers. What is this? And why do you have it here?
Because Derek sent me a picture of this and said, hey, do anybody wants a crew cab short box power wagon?
You know, this is probably a sign of things to come. This is the first of many new projects arriving at Rust Valley.
This thing's sick.
The only thing sick is you. You have a disease, Michael.
So it begins. I got so much room now, 100 vanished.
With Mike's auction mayhem over, James is focused on painting the Street Freak frame before the showcase next week.
Holy smokes, James.
Hey, when you paint things gold, they look like $1 million.
Oh, man, that looks good.
Everybody is gonna have their eyes on us. The show is right around the corner. The hot rod community will expect me to be there. Let's pull this thing into the shop, get all the running gear on it, get the body on.
Well, let's not waste any time.
We're slamming this thing together.
Well, that's what we should be doing.
Easy. We're just pounding into our precious gold, just lightly.
Taking these cars to these big showcases is a big deal, and it has to be pristine.
Sweet, one more step done. We're just running out of time today.
Too much to do.
Let's keep going. We gotta get the front clip on.
Okay.
You're a little bit dusty. You're always concerned what people will think about your latest build. If this thing doesn't turn heads, I just don't know. But if you don't push yourself out of your comfort zone, nobody will have anything to talk about. We need to make this thing make some fire. I haven't even done a test drive. I haven't tested out the flamethrowers. I'm just running out of time. Got lots to do.
Okay, let's make it happen.
Got butterflies, I'm not gonna lie. But deadlines are deadlines, and we're gonna be there. You guys made it.
I tell you what.
In Maple Ridge, BC, Japan's Customs is hosting this evening's showcase event.
We just finished setting up, and I wanted you guys to take a first look at her.
And James has invited Mike and Avery to his sneak peek.
Might want to put your safety glasses on, Avery.
Let us introduce you to Freak Show.
That thing's ginormous.
We're gonna build a Street Freak. We're gonna build the biggest.
I love the colors, 55 Caddy.
You're only missing one thing, James.
What?
You should have some dingle ball dice in the mirror.
Hey, Carl.
Impressive. How's it going, James?
Carl Fisher owns the shop and invited James to debut as Street Freak at the showcase.
Dang, dude.
My first impression of James's Cadillac is it's jacked up, it's wild, it's crazy.
Wow, man. That's an incredible chassis, dude. That's our $1 million frame right there. You did all that by hand? Jeez, buddy. Wow.
It's just a wicked vehicle. I think it's built awesome.
When I stand back and I look at this thing, it is exactly the way I pictured it.
This is original. This is the way the sun just ate the paint.
Yeah.
That's sick.
And we just kind of gave it the Comet wash, and then we just clear coated it. The patina is absolutely amazing. We didn't want to cover its scars. We wanted it to wear its scars with pride. It's got the same patina as the rest of the car. Taking a bunch of junk and turning it into something awesome. It had so much rust in behind the back door where there was a drain. You could literally grab it, and it was just flopping around.
We had to rebuild that whole side on that one.
That's amazing. Who would think that a 55 Cadillac that was in the scrapyard could end up looking like the creation James did?
I think we did pretty good.
I think you did amazing.
It's really hard to always be thinking outside the box, and I think we knocked this one out of the park.
Killer build, man. Thank you for bringing it and showing me, like, this thing is badass.
I love it.
It's kick-ass. Brings you back to a different era.
Must sound good at 5,000-6,000 RPM, eh?
Oh, it does.
This is a statement. The thing stands on its own merits. It's an amazing build.
Light him up!
Hang on, let me get back a bit.
All right! Oh, look at that!
Oh, feel the heat. I would consider James an automotive artist. He's like a Michelangelo of restoration.
What do you guys think about driving one of the biggest street freaks on the planet?
Man, I'm sitting so high in this thing.
This thing drives good, James. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A lot of jaw-dropping. What the did I just see?
It's comfy back here, man. It rides like a Cadillac. We need a little tray for some champagne.
Yeah, a little hors d'oeuvres, some oysters.
Hello, everybody!
How long did you start building this?
It's been 10 years. I'm still not done.
You're never done, buddy. By Carl inviting me to this event, the word is getting out there. Perfect, buddy. I love it. Showcase our latest build here tonight is going to really bring us up to the next level.
Stance. Bang on. Bang on.
It's all about being tapped in. It's all about networking. Like I said, the more people you know, the better it is.
To the street freak. Cheers.
Cheers.
Absolutely. All right.
Avery, these things run, right?
I hope so.
The next morning at Wildman Restorations,
We'll make trail then, let's go.
See if this thing's gonna start.
Avery and his stepson Jacob are on a mission to tame their overgrown yard before their upcoming auction.
Just this front part that's the bad part, eh? If we get this here part mowed down, the rest of it shouldn't be that bad. We don't need people stumbling around out in this high grass. Hey, Todd wants his yard clean and he wants it safe.
Look at that. Oh, you're all caught. You blow your string? Well, that was quick. That's one strand, half a weed. There's too much.
These weeds are too tough. Grab that other weed eater. But hey, I want this done.
This one?
Yeah.
It's not gonna do anything.
That no. That's a mean weed eater.
Oh yeah, she's mean, all right.
Get him on the top. Just see what it does. I'm just curious.
That ain't gonna fly. What's your plan D?
I got an idea. These stalks are too big. We're gonna try this a little bit different. We'll just cut them with this.
Oh my God.
We're gonna try the Sawzall on this.
Needles in the lungs.
Look at that.
Modern day scythe, Avery. I've never cut like weed whacked with a Sawzall before and raked with a weed whacker. There's one for the books, bud.
Oh! Oh!
Oh no!
The morning sun cast a golden haze over the dusty lot of Rust Valley restorers, glinting off the chrome edges of half-restored classic cars, each one a sleeping giant of horsepower and nostalgia. And today the air carried a different energy, one charged with ambition and the restless hum of possibility, because today wasn't just any day in the valley. It was the day that Jackson, the tall, Wiry newcomer with a shock of unruly hair and grease-stained jeans had convinced Mike and Avery to let him hunt for what he claimed was a legendary gold-plated 57 Chevy Bel Air buried somewhere in the forgotten corners of the old industrial park, a car whispered about in forums and auction circles, the kind of find that could send the Rust Valley team into a frenzy of restoration dreams and payday fantasies all at once. And as Mike leaned against the hood of his freshly polished Dodge Charger, cigarette dangling lazily from his lips, he squinted at the horizon, thinking about the thousands of dollars that could either materialize or evaporate, knowing that Jackson's optimism was infectious but often reckless, while Avery, meticulous and skeptical, tapped her pen against the clipboard she always carried, tallying parts, potential costs, and worst-case scenarios, a mental ledger running as fast as the diesel engines idling in the background. The clang of metal and hiss of air compressors forming a rhythm that was almost hypnotic, and yet beneath the mechanical symphony, there was an undercurrent of tension, the kind that always bubbled up whenever a high-stakes hunt began, because the Rust Valley crew had learned over years that every legendary find carried with it the seeds of chaos, be it rust too deep to repair, missing engine blocks, or rival collectors with sharper eyes and quicker hands, and Jackson, oblivious to any cautionary whispers, had already mapped out the day with the precision of a treasure hunter in a pulp novel, plotting routes through abandoned warehouses, fenced-off lots, and overgrown back alleys, where weeds clawed through cracked asphalt like nature's protest against human ambition, and he carried a beat-up metal detector that had seen better days but gleamed under his eager grip, promising revelations that might never come, while his old pickup truck rattled down the gravel path, leaving a plume of dust that shimmered like a veil, almost magical, under the morning light. And Mike, still skeptical but unable to resist the lure of adventure, climbed in beside him, revving the engine with a growl that echoed off the corrugated steel walls of nearby warehouses, while Avery followed in her meticulously maintained minivan, organized to the last detail with toolkits, parts catalogs, and a first aid kit, embodying the voice of reason in a trio propelled more by hope than experience today. And as they drove, Jackson recounted tales he had gathered online, screenshots and forum posts he had printed out, pointing excitedly at crumbling brick structures that once housed assembly lines, claiming, "This is it. This is where it all began. The place where someone parked the car and never came back." And Mike rolled his eyes but smiled, the corners of his mouth twitching, because the idea of finding a golden 57 Bel Air was ridiculous yet intoxicating, and the very impossibility of it made the day feel electric, like the charged air before a storm, while Avery tapped her fingers against the dashboard, reminding them all that abandoned vehicles often came with nothing but disappointment, rust, and insurance headaches. Yet even her practical mind couldn't completely suppress a spark of curiosity, that tiny, flickering ember that had drawn her to Rust Valley years ago, when she first realized that every corner held stories, every dent and rust spot a clue to the life a car had lived. And as they turned onto a gravel path lined with crumbling warehouses and wild grass, Jackson jumped out, waving them over to a chain-link gate that sagged on rusted hinges, announcing that this, according to his meticulous research, was the spot where the car was last seen, and the trio stepped out, the gravel crunching underfoot, the metal detector in Jackson's hands vibrating slightly, almost as if sensing the excitement in the air, while Avery took notes and Mike, hands in pockets, surveyed the area, his eyes scanning for more than just cars, because in Rust Valley, danger and opportunity often traveled together, whether in the form of crumbling floors, broken glass, or unexpected visitors with their own agendas. And as they entered the lot, a flock of pigeons erupted from the rafters of an old warehouse, flapping in panicked unison, a cloud of feathers and dust that made Avery sneeze and Jackson laugh, claiming it was a good omen, while Mike simply shook his head, muttering under his breath about superstition and Murphy's Law, yet even he couldn't deny that the moment felt alive, charged with a promise of discovery. The way a magician's flourish hints at the unseen trick, the hidden payoff that made the risk worthwhile, and they began to sweep the lot, metal detector humming, eyes scanning for the glint of gold, bolts, or chrome, each beep a heartbeat of anticipation, every rusted frame a possibility, and the sun climbed higher, beating down through cracks in the warehouse roof, illuminating dust motes like tiny stars in a cathedral of forgotten machinery, and Jackson's excitement was contagious, his gestures broad, pointing out what he claimed were subtle indentations in the asphalt that marked the exact spot where the Bel Air's tires had rested decades ago, while Avery measured distances, calculated angles, and sketched diagrams, balancing optimism with caution, and Mike leaned against a partially restored Pontiac, watching a small drama unfold as Jackson pried open an old metal crate, only to find a tangle of wires and engine parts, which he held up triumphantly, declaring it a partial clue, while Avery rolled her eyes and scribbled notes, and Mike laughed quietly, shaking his head, because the Rust Valley routine was as much about chasing dreams as it was about sifting through disappointment, yet the thrill of the hunt was undeniable, a pulse that quickened with every sound of metal on metal, every distant rumble of a passing truck that made the ground beneath them vibrate, and as the afternoon sun climbed toward its zenith, the trio uncovered a series of clues that seemed to confirm Jackson's wild claims. A partially buried tire, a rusted hubcap with faded gold paint, the corner of a license plate that, with some imagination, could have belonged to the legendary Bel Air, and with each discovery, excitement mounted, discussions grew louder, theories were tossed back and forth, and the boundaries between reality and legend blurred, because in Rust Valley, legend had a way of reshaping itself, bending to the will of those who dared to dream, and as shadows lengthened across the lot, Avery suggested they take a break, her mind racing through calculations of time, parts needed, and probable restoration costs, while Jackson insisted on one more sweep, claiming intuition was guiding him, that invisible hand that so often led restorers to fortune, and Mike, caught between exasperation and thrill, reluctantly agreed, and it was in that final sweep that the metal detector let out a continuous, vibrating scream, the kind that made hearts leap, a signal that something significant lay beneath, and as they dug carefully, hands moving through dirt and gravel, the tip of chrome appeared, catching the dying sunlight like a beacon, and as they cleared the debris, the unmistakable curve of the Bel Air's front fender emerged, rusted yet regal, gold paint flaking but undeniably original, and for a moment, the world seemed to pause, the air thick with disbelief and triumph, Jackson's grin wide enough to split his face, Avery's pen dropping from her hand as she stared at the find, and Mike letting out a low whistle, his mind racing with the work, the cost, and the glory that awaited, and as the last rays of sunlight illuminated the legendary car, a hush fell over Rust Valley, a sacred quiet that spoke of dreams realized, of history touched, and of the feverish gold rush that had brought them all together, because in that instant, they were no longer just restorers. They were the keepers of a story, guardians of a treasure that had survived decades of neglect, and as they stood there, silhouetted against the glinting metal, they felt the familiar, addictive thrill of Rust Valley, the intoxicating, unstoppable pull of gold. Fever. The moment they unearthed the Golden 57 Bel Air, the energy in Rust Valley shifted, almost as if the air itself had recognized the significance of the discovery, and Jackson, barely able to contain himself, began pacing around the car, hands brushing over the rusted chrome and peeling gold paint, tracing lines and imagining the car restored to its former glory, while Mike crouched beside the front fender, inspecting the rust damage with a practiced eye, murmuring calculations about what could be salvaged, what would need replacement, and what might never be restored, and Avery, clipboard now abandoned on the gravel, walked slowly around the vehicle, letting her hands hover over the panels, imagining the hours of labor ahead, the hours that would be spent sanding, priming, welding, and painting, the endless puzzle of restoration that she both loved and dreaded, yet beneath the calculations and logistics, there was a shared sense of awe, a quiet recognition that some finds transcended mere monetary value. They were moments that defined the essence of Rust Valley, the very heartbeat of the crew, and as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the lot, Jackson turned to Mike and Avery, eyes gleaming, and said, "Do you realize what we have here? This isn't just a car. This is history. This is legend. This is," and his voice trailed off, the word gold unspoken but present, heavy and seductive, filling the space between them, while Mike shook his head, half in disbelief, half in the familiar frustration that accompanied Jackson's hyperbolic excitement. Yet even he couldn't deny the magnitude of the moment, and Avery, normally the voice of reason, felt her heart quicken, the meticulous planning, the careful measurements, all melting into the raw, visceral thrill of discovery, the kind that had driven her into Rust Valley years ago, the thrill that had kept her there through countless disappointments. And as they stood in silence, absorbing the reality of their find, a plan began to form in Jackson's mind, a sprawling, ambitious, slightly reckless plan that involved towing the car back to the shop immediately, assessing structural damage, sourcing missing parts from obscure corners of the world, and documenting every step for a video series that he insisted would go viral. Because, in Jackson's world, the legend of a car demanded a legend of storytelling, and Mike, sensing both the brilliance and madness of the idea, grunted in agreement, though his mind was already calculating the risks: rusted frames, seized engines, missing trim, and the potential for costly mistakes, while Avery silently mapped out the logistics in her head, noting the order in which the car would be restored, potential suppliers, the costs, and the optimal way to schedule manpower, because she knew that. While Jackson brought vision, Mike brought muscle and experience. She brought organization, and together, they formed a triangle of chaos and efficiency that, more often than not, produced miracles. And as the sky deepened into hues of crimson and gold, Jackson pulled out his phone, snapping photos, already drafting captions, while Mike measured the wheelbase and frame alignment, and Avery, leaning against the hood, considered the work that awaited, knowing that tonight they would sleep little. Planning, scheming, imagining every step, and the excitement was addictive, a fever that burned hotter with each imagined challenge, because Rust Valley was never just about fixing cars. It was about finding the improbable, touching history, wrestling chaos into order, and telling stories that would echo beyond the gravel lot, beyond the small town, perhaps even reaching the screens of viewers who shared the same hunger for discovery, restoration, and triumph. And as darkness fell, they finally managed to hook the Bel Air to Jackson's old pickup, the engine groaning under the strain, and slowly, cautiously, they navigated the uneven gravel back to the shop, headlights illuminating dust and shadows, the golden car shimmering like a treasure brought to life. And along the way, they discussed the restoration plan with the intensity of generals mapping a battle, debating whether to strip the paint entirely, how to source the elusive original engine, where to find chrome trims that match the year perfectly, and how to handle the rust without compromising the structural integrity. Jackson enthusiastic and improvisational, Mike practical yet inspired, and Avery measured and meticulous, each voice contributing to the formation of what would become a master plan for resurrecting a legend. And when they finally reached the shop, the familiar clang of metal and hiss of compressors greeted them, a symphony of potential and labor, and they began the delicate process of unloading the car, straps creaking under tension, the smell of grease and oil mixing with dust, the faint scent of rust, the metallic tang that always seemed to promise both trouble and reward. And as the Bel Air finally rested on the shop floor, gleaming under fluorescent lights, the trio stood back, absorbing the scale of what lay before them. Because beneath the layers of rust and gold paint lay not just a car, but a story, a lifetime of memories frozen in metal, waiting to be awakened by careful hands and relentless ambition. And Jackson, already brainstorming video angles, restoration sequences, and audience engagement strategies, seemed almost to vibrate with excitement, while Mike, rolling up his sleeves, ran his hands along the frame, imagining the work, the satisfaction of turning the impossible into reality. And Avery, eyes scanning the car from hood to trunk, thought about every weld, every bolt, every tiny decision that would define whether this restoration would be a triumph or a tragedy. And as the first night fell over Rust Valley, the three sat around the car, exhausted but electrified, plotting the days ahead, discussing tools, parts, suppliers, and potential pitfalls, and in the quiet hum of the shop, amid shadows and reflected golden light, there was a sense that something extraordinary had begun, a project that would test patience, skill, creativity, and sometimes friendship, because the pursuit of legends demanded more than skill. It demanded heart, commitment, and a willingness to embrace uncertainty. And over the next days, the team dove into the work, Jackson hunting for rare parts online, contacting collectors, forum enthusiasts, and obscure salvage yards, Mike stripping rusted panels, assessing engine components, and Avery meticulously cataloging every piece, ensuring that nothing would be lost, nothing overlooked, while all the while, the shop itself seemed to pulse with anticipation, as if recognizing the significance of the car, the potential stories embedded in its golden curves, and the fever that had taken hold of the trio was relentless, infectious, making each small victory, a polished fender, a functioning carburetor, a matched trim piece, feel monumental, a step closer to reviving a forgotten legend. And as they worked, they laughed, argued, and celebrated minor triumphs with the kind of intensity that only Rust Valley could produce, because here, every day was a battle between chaos and order, decay and renewal, failure and triumph, and in those moments, time seemed to stretch, the hours slipping away unnoticed as they lost themselves in the rhythm of restoration, the tactile sensation of metal, paint, and grease, the mental gymnastics of problem-solving and improvisation, and the shared joy of transforming something broken into something extraordinary. And even as challenges arose, the engine refusing to turn, the rust deeper than anticipated, parts delayed in shipping, the team pressed on, driven by the vision of the finished car, the story it would tell, and the undeniable pull of gold fever, which had captured not only the car, but their very spirits, binding them to the pursuit. And as night fell again over Rust Valley, the Golden Bel Air resting under shop lights, gleaming despite the rust and grime, the trio looked at it with a mixture of awe, exhaustion, and exhilaration, knowing that they had embarked on a journey that would demand everything they had, but that the rewards, both tangible and intangible, would be worth every scraped knuckle, every sleepless night, every near miss and setback, because some legends were worth chasing, some cars were worth resurrecting, and some stories demanded to be told, no matter the cost. And as they locked up the shop, the faint glimmer of gold reflecting in the darkness, Jackson muttered, almost to himself, "Tomorrow we make history." And Mike chuckled, knowing that Rust Valley had never been about just cars, and Avery, standing with clipboard in hand, nodded silently, understanding that gold fever was not just a name, but a state of mind, a relentless drive that transformed ordinary days into extraordinary ones, that made the impossible tangible, and that bound them together as a team capable of turning legend into reality. And in that quiet, golden-lit moment, the promise of what was to come hung heavy in the air, tangible and electric, because once gold fever had taken hold, there was no turning back, only forward, deeper into restoration, into chaos, into triumph, and into the very heart of Rust Valley itself. The dawn brought with it the faint scent of diesel and oil, seeping through the cracks of Rust Valley's shop, a smell that carried memories of countless restorations, victories, and failures alike. And as Jackson arrived first, his hair sticking up at odd angles from sleep and the night's restless scheming, he immediately set to work checking emails, forums, and obscure online auctions for any trace of parts, rare trims, or original engine components for the legendary Golden 57 Bel Air. Each click and scroll amplifying the anticipation that had already taken hold of the team, while Mike, arriving with a thermos of coffee and a determined expression, headed straight to the workshop floor, crouching beside the car, running gloved hands over the rusted frame, inspecting welds, joints, and the integrity of the chassis, muttering calculations and possibilities under his breath. His mind a spinning wheel of engineering expertise, years of experience, and intuition honed from decades of restoring not just cars but dreams, while Avery followed shortly after, notebook in hand, pen poised to record every detail, every decision, every potential snag, because she knew that in Rust Valley, meticulous documentation could be the difference between a miraculous restoration and a catastrophic failure, and together, the three fell into the rhythm that had defined their work for years. Jackson the visionary, Mike the craftsman, Avery the organizer, each role distinct yet intertwined. The synergy palpable, especially when a project carried the weight of legend and gold fever burned in their veins. And today, the stakes were higher than ever. The Bel Air's promise shimmering like a siren, calling them into a labyrinth of metal, rust, and history, a labyrinth that would test their skills, their patience, and their resolve. Because as anyone in Rust Valley knew, no car, however golden or legendary, came without complications, and complications were never simple, often arriving as a tangled mess of seized engines, warped panels, missing trim, and inexplicably stubborn bolts that refused to budge, each one a puzzle demanding ingenuity and persistence. And as Jackson flipped through his notes and printouts, highlighting forum posts that hinted at engine specifications, paint codes, and previous ownership, his excitement bubbled uncontrollably, gesturing wildly, drawing diagrams in the air as he recounted theories about the car's history, its mysterious disappearance, and the previous owners who may have left it abandoned, while Mike, kneeling beside the engine bay, shook his head but smiled, appreciating the enthusiasm yet grounding it with pragmatic assessments, pointing out where metal fatigue had compromised the frame, where rust had eaten too deep to repair without cutting and welding, and where sourcing original parts would be a painstaking quest requiring patience and often the luck of a collector's instinct. And Avery, meanwhile, was already drafting a restoration schedule, noting down tasks, prioritizing steps, and creating a supply chain plan that would ensure they had the right parts, tools, and manpower at the right time, her mind a constant balance between ambition and realism, because she knew that dreams, no matter how golden, required structure to survive. And as the morning hours bled into afternoon, the trio moved with the synchronized energy of a well-practiced team, their voices overlapping in discussions, arguments, and laughter. Metal tools clanging against metal parts, grinders humming, air compressors hissing, and the occasional triumphant shout echoing as a stubborn piece of chrome or a rusted bolt finally yielded to their efforts. And through it all, the golden Bel Air sat as the centerpiece of the chaos, regal yet vulnerable, a living challenge that demanded attention, respect, and dedication, its curves catching the sunlight streaming through the shop windows, reflecting golden flecks onto walls and floors, almost as if acknowledging the devotion of its caretakers. And by mid-afternoon, Jackson had located a rare original carburetor at an obscure auction site halfway across the country, negotiating feverishly over the phone, while Mike meticulously stripped the engine of corroded parts, cleaning, sanding, and cataloging each piece, ensuring that nothing was lost or damaged in the delicate process. And Avery, calculating shipping times, sourcing additional gaskets, seals, and specialty fluids, worked her organizational magic, creating a timeline that would keep the restoration on track while allowing room for unexpected discoveries or setbacks, because in Rust Valley, setbacks were inevitable, yet the thrill of overcoming them was part of the journey, a journey that had drawn countless restorers, collectors, and dreamers to this remote patch of metal, rust, and ambition, where cars were more than machines. They were histories, stories, and sometimes treasures. And as the day wore on, a subtle tension began to build, not from discord, but from the immense concentration and stakes involved, because even a minor miscalculation could cost days of work or compromise the integrity of the restoration. And the Bel Air's golden paint, though faded and chipped, gleamed under inspection, revealing layers of history, previous repairs, and a legacy that demanded careful handling, while the rust patterns told stories of neglect, abandonment, and survival. And Jackson, tracing the contours with his fingers, imagined the car in its prime, cruising down highways, gleaming in sunlight, turning heads, and evoking envy and admiration, while Mike counterbalanced with reality checks, pointing out the structural compromises, the areas needing reinforcement, and the painstaking process ahead, and Avery, notebook full, mapped out the tasks, highlighting priorities, scheduling work hours, and ensuring that resources would align perfectly, because in the world of Rust Valley, planning was as critical as skill, creativity, or luck, and the trio moved seamlessly between visions, hands, on work and logistical planning, a ballet of purpose and chaos that somehow always produced results, yet always carried the promise of the unexpected, the surprise of a hidden problem, or the exhilaration of a breakthrough. And as the sun dipped toward evening, casting long, dramatic shadows across the shop floor, Jackson, unable to contain himself, proposed a bold idea: to document the restoration process in a serialized video format, capturing each struggle, each triumph, each moment of revelation, because he believed that the story of the car, its discovery, its challenges, its resurrection, was as compelling as the car itself, a philosophy that Mike and Avery debated passionately, weighing the benefits of exposure, potential sponsorships, and the inevitable pressures of filming against the need for focus, precision, and the uninterrupted flow of restoration. Yet despite reservations, the plan began to take shape, each detail debated, refined, and eventually agreed upon. Because in Rust Valley, ambition and practicality often collided, but the collision sparked creativity, producing solutions that were unexpected yet effective. And as night fell, the team worked under the harsh fluorescent lights, faces illuminated by the glow of progress, Jackson filming selectively with his phone, Mike concentrating on welding and rust treatment, Avery documenting every procedure, tool used, and part cataloged, the workshop filled with the sounds of grinding, clanking, and occasional laughter, a soundtrack that embodied both labor and passion. And as the hours slipped by, they encountered the first real setback. The engine block, when tested, refused to turn over, seized solid with decades of neglect, and Jackson, ever the optimist, began brainstorming possible solutions, while Mike diagnosed the problem with calm precision, explaining the extent of corrosion, the potential need for replacement, and the painstaking effort required to restore it without destroying authenticity. And Avery, noting every detail, recalculated the timeline, adjusting for shipping delays, sourcing possibilities, and potential workarounds, because in Rust Valley, flexibility was as important as skill, and the ability to adapt often determined the success of a project. And as the night deepened, the trio labored on, working in harmony and occasional conflict, the Golden Bel Air standing as both challenge and inspiration, embodying the very essence of Rust Valley: persistence, passion, creativity, and the irresistible pull of gold fever. And despite the fatigue, the frustration, and the uncertainty, there was a sense of elation, a recognition that they were participating in something rare, a resurrection of history, a transformation of decay into brilliance. And as the first stars appeared in the night sky above the shop, Jackson, Mike, and Avery stepped back, surveying their work, exhaustion etched into every line of their faces, hands blackened by grease and soot, eyes shining with anticipation and pride. And in that quiet moment, with the Golden Bel Air gleaming under shop lights, reflecting their collective efforts, the three felt the intoxicating, unstoppable pull of Rust Valley, of gold fever, and of a project that would define not just their skills, but their very identities as restorers, dreamers, and keepers of automotive legends. And as they finally closed the shop for the night, the promise of the next day hung heavy in the air, a promise of challenges, discoveries, and breakthroughs. Because once gold fever had taken hold, there was no turning back, only forward, into the chaos, into the restoration, and into the heart of Rust Valley itself. The following morning arrived with a crisp chill that crept through the gaps in the Rust Valley shop, carrying the faint aroma of gasoline, metal, and oil, a scent that, to the team, felt like a prelude to discovery. And Jackson was the first to arrive, coffee in hand, already scrolling through online marketplaces, forums, and obscure auction listings, his eyes bright with anticipation as he hunted for the rare chrome trims, original upholstery, and elusive engine components that would complete The resurrection of the Golden 57 Bel Air, while Mike followed shortly after, rolling up his sleeves, gloves in hand, and kneeling beside the car to assess progress, inspecting the engine block, the frame, and the rust patterns, running his experienced fingers over bolts, welds, and surfaces, calculating the labor, the cost, and the steps required to ensure structural integrity, and Avery arrived shortly after. Notebook ready, pen poised, her mind already mapping out the sequence of restoration, balancing timelines, part arrivals, and manpower, because she understood that a legendary restoration required both vision and meticulous planning, and as they all settled into their respective roles, the shop seemed to hum with anticipation, metal echoing, compressors hissing, grinders and sanders whirring, a chorus of machinery harmonizing with human intent, and Jackson, unable to contain himself, pulled up old photographs of the original Bel Air, tracing lines, pointing out faded gold patterns, discussing the original interior design, chrome accents, and wheel trim, while Mike crouched low, nodded, and offered practical insights, discussing what parts could be salvaged, what needed fabrication, and what would demand patience and precision. And Avery, notebook full, cross-reference measurements, part numbers, and shipping estimates, calculating the hours required for each stage, and the cost implications if delays occurred, because in Rust Valley, foresight was as critical as skill, and preparation often dictated the difference between success and catastrophic setbacks. And as the morning sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating dust motes like tiny golden sparks, Jackson proposed a daring plan: to restore the car using entirely original parts whenever possible, even if it meant months of searching, negotiations, and unexpected delays. A plan that thrilled him but gave Mike pause, who calculated the risk of damage, lost parts, and additional labor, while Avery quietly approved, knowing that the authenticity of the car would elevate the restoration from a mere repair to a historical resurrection, a statement of craftsmanship and dedication. And as they began, Mike stripped the engine of corroded components, carefully labeling each piece, sanding and polishing what could be saved, while Jackson documented the process, filming selectively for the series he envisioned, narrating the story of the car's discovery, history, and challenges. With the flair of a storyteller, and Avery cataloged every step, noting the precise condition of parts, tracking repairs, and cross-referencing suppliers so that nothing would be forgotten, misplaced, or overlooked, because in Rust Valley, chaos was always a possibility, and preparation was the shield against it. And as hours turned into afternoon, the first real obstacle emerged: the transmission, frozen solid with decades of corrosion, would not budge without risking damage to surrounding components, and Jackson, ever the optimist, suggested they soak it in a secret solvent mix he had read about online, while Mike, skeptical but willing to try, applied heat, penetrating oils, and gentle leverage, explaining each step, the science behind it, and the potential consequences. And Avery, pen hovering over her notebook, calculated alternative approaches, potential replacement sources, and the additional labor required, while the tension of uncertainty added a new rhythm to the day. Each movement, decision, and sound carrying the weight of the restoration, the history of the car, and the promise of gold fever. And as the sun climbed higher, casting shadows across the golden curves of the Bel Air, Jackson spotted a subtle imperfection in the paint along the passenger door, a scratch, faded gold underlayer showing through, and he insisted it must be preserved in the video as a testament to the car's story, a visual clue to its decades-long journey. While Mike and Avery debated whether to restore it fully or leave the imperfection as a character mark, a challenge between authenticity and perfection, and in that debate, the dynamic of Rust Valley played out in miniature: vision versus practicality, excitement versus patience, storytelling versus meticulous execution, yet always finding equilibrium in the shared goal of resurrection. And as the afternoon wore on, progress was visible: the engine partially disassembled, rust-treated, chrome parts cleaned and cataloged, and the golden Bel Air beginning to transform from forgotten relic to a tangible legend, while Jackson's camera recorded each step, capturing sparks from grinders, the reflection of fluorescent lights on gold paint, and the focused intensity of hands working in grease and grime, and the shop was alive with motion, energy, and the intoxicating pull of gold fever, a pull that had driven Jackson, Mike, and Avery from morning into night, and the thrill of discovery was coupled with the sober reality of the challenges ahead. Because in Rust Valley, every victory was measured in hours of labor, ingenuity, and patience, and each setback a test of resolve, creativity, and teamwork. And as evening approached, a new complication arose. The original upholstery had been exposed to moisture for decades, leather cracked, padding rotted, and the custom gold stitching faded almost beyond recognition, and Jackson, determined to maintain authenticity, began researching leather restoration experts, rare thread, and stitching techniques, while Mike examined whether sections could be salvaged or required complete replacement, and Avery began drafting a timeline for upholstery work, incorporating expert consultations, shipping times, and contingency plans, while also calculating costs, because one misstep could derail the schedule and inflate the budget beyond feasibility. And despite the stress, there was an unspoken thrill in confronting these challenges, because every difficulty overcame meant the restoration would be more genuine, the story more compelling, and the eventual triumph more satisfying. And the Golden Bel Air, though battered, rusted, and incomplete, seemed to respond to their attention, the light catching its curves, panels gleaming beneath the grime, the chrome reflecting effort, dedication, and sweat. And in those quiet moments between work, the team reflected on the journey that had brought them here, the discovery in the abandoned lot, the search through dusty corners of industrial parks, the coordination of supplies, and the precise choreography of effort, planning, and ambition. And Jackson, unable to resist, began jotting down ideas for the video series, imagining how viewers would react to each revelation, challenge, and breakthrough, while Mike muttered technical jargon under his breath, solving problems with instinct honed over decades, and Avery, pen poised, tracked every step, anticipating future complications and preparing solutions in advance, because in Rust Valley, foresight was a survival tool, as essential as skill, enthusiasm, or creativity. And as night fell over the shop, the three finally paused, looking at the car, the engine partially disassembled, rust-treated, chrome gleaming, and every detail slowly taking shape under their combined effort. And the Golden Bel Air seemed to radiate possibility, almost as if acknowledging their labor, whispering stories of the past, and promising the legend it would become. And as they cleaned up, packed tools, and locked the shop, Jackson muttered about early morning inspections. Mike calculated the steps needed for tomorrow's welding and engine repair, and Avery finalized notes for part of the restoration schedule, because once gold fever took hold, there was no pause, only continuous forward momentum. And as the trio stepped outside into the crisp night, the stars above seemed to mirror the golden specks on the car's body, a celestial echo of the labor, ambition, and passion that filled Rust Valley. Reminder that some pursuits were timeless, demanding not only skill but heart, patience, and courage. And as they drove home, plans and calculations running through their minds, laughter and debate filling the cab, the Golden Bel Air resting under shop lights, they felt the exhilarating, addictive pull of a journey that was only just beginning, because in Rust Valley, restoration was never just about metal and paint. It was about dreams, stories, and the fever that transformed ambition into legend. And gold fever, once caught, never truly released its grip, propelling them deeper into the chaos, creativity, and triumph that defined both the car and their lives. The morning air at Rust Valley carried a sharp clarity that seemed to electrify the senses, a perfect contrast to the hazy, golden glow that had bathed the shop in the previous evenings. And as Jackson arrived first, hair mussed from restless sleep and excitement, he immediately checked his laptop, scanning auction sites, obscure forums, and private seller listings for any rare parts needed to continue the resurrection of the legendary Golden 57 Bel Air, the hunt almost as intoxicating as the restoration itself. While Mike, arriving moments later, carried a toolbox brimming with specialized equipment, gloves tucked into his pocket, and a measured look of determination, already crouching beside the car to re-inspect welds, brackets, and frame alignment, calculating whether previous repairs had held up under the strain of rust treatment and partial disassembly, and Avery, notebook in hand, followed close behind, her mind a whirlwind of logistics, timelines, and contingency planning, balancing the ambitious visions of Jackson with the practical realities of labor, part availability, and structural integrity, because she knew that a misstep, however small, could cascade into a costly delay or a structural compromise. And as the trio settled into the rhythm that had defined Rust Valley for years, Jackson with his vision, Mike with his craft, Avery with her meticulous organization, the shop seemed to pulse with possibility, every clang, hiss, and whir of machinery punctuating the air like a drumbeat of destiny. And today's mission was particularly daunting. The engine had refused to turn over the previous night, seized solid with decades of corrosion, and now the team faced the intricate task of disassembling the block without damaging irreplaceable components, a challenge that demanded patience, ingenuity, and coordination. And Jackson, brimming with optimism, began drafting experimental strategies, referencing obscure restoration blogs, forum threads, and old mechanical manuals, gesturing wildly as he explained each theory to Mike, who nodded, countered with reality checks, and assessed the physical limitations of the engine, while Avery meticulously noted each proposed approach, its potential outcomes, and backup plans in her ever-present notebook, because in Rust Valley, preparation was not optional, it was survival, and the team understood that every decision, no matter how small, carried the weight of consequence, from the delicate removal of a rusted bolt to the careful cleaning of the carburetor, to the sourcing of original trims and upholstery, each step a battle between preservation, functionality, and historical fidelity. And as the hours stretched into mid-morning, the first sparks of progress emerged. Mike carefully removed the cylinder heads, documenting corrosion patterns, identifying salvageable components, and noting the required replacements, while Jackson filmed, narrating with an infectious excitement, highlighting the significance of each discovery, every struggle, every workaround, and Avery cataloged the process, creating detailed schematics and task lists for the next stages, balancing the thrill of discovery with the sobering reality of labor and cost. And as the sun climbed higher, illuminating dust motes like tiny golden fireflies across the shop, Jackson spotted a faint engraving inside the engine bay, the original manufacturer's mark, almost invisible beneath layers of grime and rust, and insisted it must be featured in the video as proof of authenticity and historical value, while Mike carefully photographed the detail, noting its relevance for restoration documentation, and Avery made precise notes on dimensions, wear patterns, and restoration priorities, because these small, almost imperceptible details could define the success of the project and the credibility of the story. And as the afternoon unfolded, the team confronted yet another challenge. The transmission, stubborn and fused, with rust, refused to disengage fully, threatening to halt progress and force a costly replacement. And Jackson, ever the improviser, proposed a series of techniques involving heat, penetrating oils, and gentle leverage, while Mike executed each step with caution and precision, carefully monitoring stress points and metal fatigue, and Avery calculated risk versus reward, adjusting the restoration timeline accordingly, balancing optimism with realism, because in Rust Valley, even small miscalculations could result in setbacks measured in days and sometimes weeks. And yet, despite the tension, there was a palpable exhilaration in overcoming each obstacle, a sense that the car itself was rewarding persistence and skill, acknowledging the devotion of its caretakers, the Golden Bel Air sitting majestically in the center of the chaos, curves gleaming under shop lights, chrome reflecting the labor, sweat, and care invested into every bolt, panel, and surface. And by late afternoon, progress was undeniable. The engine partially freed, rust treated and sanded, critical components cataloged and cleaned, and the first subtle hints of restored function emerging as Mike carefully rotated moving parts, confirming lubrication, alignment, and readiness for reassembly, while Jackson captured every moment, framing shots that highlighted the tension, triumph, and detail, weaving a narrative that celebrated both the car's history and the labor required to revive it. And Avery, notebook full and organized, cross-checked every measurement, part number, and supplier, ensuring that the workflow remained uninterrupted, that potential delays were accounted for, and that the team's momentum would not be lost, because in Rust Valley, Gold Fever demanded relentless focus, adaptability, and creativity, and as the evening sun slanted through the windows, casting dramatic shadows across the workshop, Jackson suggested a daring approach to the interior. Rather than replacing the deteriorated upholstery entirely, they would attempt partial restoration, blending original materials with carefully matched modern equivalents, a compromise that honored authenticity while acknowledging the limitations of available resources. And Mike, initially skeptical, inspected the leather, stitching, and padding, calculating reinforcements and repairs needed to ensure longevity, while Avery revised the schedule and budget to accommodate this delicate process, balancing efficiency with fidelity. And as darkness fell, the team worked under artificial lights, the shop alive with motion, clanging, hissing, and the subtle hum of anticipation. And every minor victory, a polished hubcap, a freed bolt, a clean trim piece, felt monumental, because in Rust Valley, restoration was as much about triumph over adversity as it was about technical skill, creativity, or patience. And the Golden Bel Air, despite its imperfections, radiated possibility, reflecting the team's collective effort and shared obsession. And as they finally paused to catch their breath, Jackson, coffee in hand, reviewed footage, plotting sequences for the series, envisioning each dramatic reveal, every moment of suspense and triumph, while Mike meticulously inspected work done, planning next steps, and Avery updated her logs, schedules, and contingency plans, because preparation ensured progress, and progress maintained momentum. And as night enveloped the shop, the trio stepped back to admire the Bel Air. Golden paint dulled yet shimmering beneath the fluorescent glow, chrome slightly tarnished, but gleaming wear. Cleaned, interior exposed and awaiting the patient hands of restoration, and they felt the intoxicating pull of Gold Fever, a pull that demanded devotion, courage, patience, and imagination, because in Rust Valley, every car carried stories, every restoration was a battle, and every breakthrough, however small, was a victory over time, decay, and neglect. And in that quiet moment, the Bel Air seemed almost alive, a sentinel of history, legend, and possibility, whispering promises of the triumphs, struggles, and stories yet to unfold. And as they locked the shop, tools cleaned, notes organized, and lights dimmed, Jackson muttered with a grin, "Tomorrow we make more magic." Mike nodded, already running technical scenarios in his mind, and Avery, notebook clutched, silently approved, aware that the journey ahead would be grueling, exhilarating, and transformative, because Gold Fever, once caught, did not release its grip, propelling them deeper into restoration, history, and the very heart of Rust Valley itself, where ambition, skill, creativity, and relentless determination converged in a symphony of metal, sweat, and dreams. The next morning arrived over Rust Valley with a biting chill that made the metallic surfaces of the shop glint sharply in the pale sun, and Jackson, already at the helm, sipped his coffee with restless energy, eyes scanning auction notifications, rare car part forums, and private seller threads, hunting for the final pieces required to continue the resurrection of the Golden 57 Bel Air. Each click of the mouse fueling the fever that had taken hold of him, while Mike arrived with his toolbox. In tow, a mixture of methodical determination and quiet excitement etched into his face as he crouched beside the Bel Air, running his hands over the frame, inspecting welds, the engine block, and rusted suspension mounts, calculating the hours, materials, and labor that would be required to restore integrity and function to decades of neglect. And Avery, notebook in hand and pen poised, followed close behind, her mind already mapping out the day's schedule, prioritizing tasks, arranging part arrivals, and drafting contingency plans, balancing Jackson's visionary impulses with Mike's practical assessments, because in Rust Valley, Preparation was as critical as skill or enthusiasm, and as they settled into their rhythm, the shop seemed to vibrate with energy, each clang, hiss, and whir of machinery contributing to a chorus of anticipation. A symphony that only those who lived and breathed restoration could understand. And today's challenge loomed large: the partially disassembled engine, though freed from decades of corrosion, still required meticulous attention, careful cleaning, and precise reassembly, while the transmission, previously stubborn, demanded verification of alignment, lubrication, and structural integrity. And Jackson, ever the optimist, outlined experimental techniques, some gleaned from forums, some from intuition, gesturing enthusiastically as he described potential solutions, while Mike executed each step with cautious precision, carefully assessing metal fatigue, stress points, and the risk of catastrophic failure. And Avery, notebook filling rapidly, cataloged each action, outcome, and adjustment, ensuring that the restoration remained meticulously documented, because in Rust Valley, chaos was never far away, and preparation was the only defense. And as the morning progressed, Jackson's energy proved contagious, pulling Mike and Avery into spirited debates over technique, order of operations, and creative problem-solving, as sparks from grinders, flashes from welders, and the gleam of polished chrome illuminated the shop like a cathedral of labor. And with every minor victory, a freed bolt, a polished hubcap, a cleaned engine component, the team's morale surged, the Golden Bel Air gradually transforming from a neglected relic into a tangible legend, each curve, dent, and faded paint fleck telling a story that demanded patience, skill, and respect. And as noon approached, a particularly stubborn challenge emerged: the Bel Air's original carburetor, long corroded and partially seized, needed both cleaning and calibration to function, a delicate task that required steady hands, precise tools, and nerves of steel. And Jackson, enthusiastic but inexperienced in this particular component, proposed improvisational methods inspired by online videos and forum suggestions, while Mike patiently guided him through proper techniques, emphasizing the importance of precision and caution. And Avery documented every step, noting adjustments, measurements, and timing, balancing creativity with technical fidelity, because in Rust Valley, Gold Fever was as much about managing risk as it was about chasing the thrill of discovery. And as the afternoon sun filtered through the shop windows, casting long, golden streaks across the workshop floor, the Bel Air seemed to radiate possibility, gleaming beneath layers of grime and rust, its curves reflecting the labor, sweat, and dedication invested by its caretakers. While outside, the air was filled with the distant hum of traffic and occasional caws of crows, a soundtrack to the focused chaos within. And Jackson, unable to resist, continued filming, capturing the intricate process of engine restoration, documenting sparks, grease-stained hands, and expressions of triumph and frustration, weaving a narrative that celebrated both the car's history and the human effort required to revive it, while Mike methodically measured, adjusted, and documented, ensuring structural integrity, alignment, and functionality. And Avery, notebook full, cross-referenced all steps with part numbers, supplier details, and anticipated timelines, recalculating whenever an unexpected challenge emerged, because in Rust Valley, meticulous planning was as crucial as skill or vision. And by late afternoon, the team faced yet another obstacle. The car's original wiring harness, brittle and corroded, threatened to derail the electrical system, potentially delaying ignition, lighting, and dashboard functions. And Jackson, inspired by a combination of intuition and online research, suggested carefully repairing each section while retaining as much original wire as possible, whereas Mike, practical and precise, assessed the feasibility of replacement versus repair. And Avery mapped out a detailed restoration and testing protocol to ensure functionality without compromising authenticity, balancing creative ambition with mechanical necessity. And as the hours stretched on, their progress became tangible. Cleaned engine components ready for reassembly, transmission alignment verified, minor rust treated and reinforced, wiring prepped for careful restoration, and chrome polished to a mirror sheen, while the Bel Air itself transformed from a neglected relic into a glowing symbol of history, perseverance, and gold fever, and Jackson's filming captured every moment, from sparks flying during welding to the subtle gleam of freshly cleaned panels, constructing a narrative of triumph over decay, while Mike meticulously verified each mechanical procedure, ensuring every component would function as intended, and Avery tracked every detail, updating timelines, sourcing contingency parts, and anticipating future challenges, because in Rust Valley, foresight was as vital as labor, expertise, or vision. And as evening approached, the team faced the delicate task of restoring portions of the interior. Leather cracked, padding rotted, original stitching faded. Yet Jackson insisted on preserving authenticity wherever possible, sourcing rare leather, thread, and padding from distant suppliers, while Mike prepared the seats for partial restoration, reinforcing frames, and Avery incorporated the interior work into the ongoing schedule, calculating labor hours, shipment times, and budget adjustments, ensuring that the restoration remained on track despite the complexity. And as night fell, the trio paused to survey the Bel Air under the harsh fluorescent lights, the golden curves now gleaming despite remaining imperfections, engine partially disassembled but showing progress, transmission aligned, wiring prepped, and interior awaiting careful intervention. And in that quiet moment, the intoxicating pull of gold fever enveloped them, a grip that demanded devotion, patience, creativity, and courage, because in Rust Valley, restoration was never simply about fixing cars. It was about resurrecting history, capturing stories, and transforming decay into legend. And as they cleaned up, organized tools, and locked the shop, Jackson muttered with a grin, "Tomorrow we push further." Mike nodded, already running mechanical scenarios in his mind, and Avery, notebook clutched, silently approved, fully aware that the next day would bring fresh challenges, discoveries, and breakthroughs, because once gold fever had taken hold, it propelled them deeper into restoration, chaos, creativity, and triumph, into the very heart of Rust Valley itself, where skill, ambition, and relentless determination converged to turn dreams into legends. And as the golden Bel Air rested under shop lights, reflecting the trio's labor, sweat, and obsession, it seemed to almost hum with potential, a silent witness to the trials overcome and the stories yet to be revealed, promising that every effort invested would echo in the triumphant resurrection of history itself, a testament to what could be achieved when vision, skill, and dedication collided in the fevered pursuit of automotive legend. The morning light filtered through the dusty windows of Rust Valley restorers, illuminating the golden Bel Air in a halo of muted brilliance, and Jackson, fueled by coffee and an uncontainable surge of excitement, immediately dove into research, scanning online auctions, rare parts listings, and collector forums for any elusive components that could advance the resurrection of the legendary car, while Mike, rolling up his sleeves with a mix of anticipation and methodical focus, crouched beside the engine, running gloved fingers along bolts, brackets, and mounting points, analyzing metal fatigue, rust penetration, and structural integrity, calculating which parts could be salvaged, which needed careful fabrication, and which might require sourcing from distant suppliers. And Avery, ever the meticulous organizer, trailed with her notebook in hand, pen poised, mapping out timelines, tasks, and contingencies, balancing Jackson's visionary impulses with the practical realities of labor, availability, and structural requirements, because in Rust Valley, preparation was as vital as skill or enthusiasm. And as they settled into their familiar rhythm, the shop seemed to pulse with energy, the clang of metal, hiss of compressors, and hum of grinders forming a mechanical symphony that resonated with the promise of discovery. And today's task was particularly challenging, reassembling the partially disassembled engine while addressing corrosion, worn components, and alignment issues. A process demanding both precision and patience. And Jackson, brimming with ideas, proposed experimental approaches inspired by online tutorials and forums, gesturing animatedly, while Mike executed each step with steady hands, assessing stress points, metal tolerances, and potential risks of further damage, and Avery documented every detail, measuring, noting, and cross-referencing, creating a meticulous record that would guide future steps and preserve the integrity of the restoration. And as morning bled into afternoon, the team faced their first significant obstacle. The Bel Air's carburetor, aged, corroded, and partially seized, required delicate disassembly and cleaning, a task Jackson approached with eager improvisation while Mike maintained strict oversight, explaining procedures, clarifying tolerances, and demonstrating proper techniques, while Avery monitored the process, documenting measurements, adjustments, and anticipated outcomes, because every small success or failure in Rust Valley carried tangible consequences for schedule, budget, and structural fidelity. And as the afternoon sun streamed through the windows, dust motes glimmering like tiny stars, Jackson spotted a faint engraving on the engine bay, the original manufacturer's mark, and insisted it be featured prominently in the video documentation, while Mike photographed and cataloged the detail, noting its relevance for authenticity, and Avery made precise notes, measuring dimensions, recording wear patterns, and integrating restoration priorities, because in Rust Valley, every detail mattered, and overlooked minutiae could have long-term implications, and by late afternoon, progress was undeniable. Engine components cleaned, critical bolts freed, rust treated, minor repairs executed, and preliminary tests indicating reassembled functionality, while the golden Bel Air, its curves gleaming under shop lights, reflected the labor, attention, and collective skill of the team and Jackson's. Filming captured sparks from grinders, the subtle glint of polished chrome, and the concentrated expressions of hands-on work, weaving a narrative that celebrated history, challenge, and triumph, while Mike methodically verified each step, ensuring alignment, torque, and function, and Avery tracked every aspect of workflow, part sourcing, and scheduling, recalculating whenever unexpected complications arose. Because in Rust Valley, foresight was as crucial as expertise, and precision as critical as imagination, and as evening approached, the team turned to the car's interior, a delicate and complicated task, leather cracked, padding rotted, stitching faded and brittle, demanding careful restoration. Yet Jackson, obsessed with authenticity, insisted on sourcing original materials whenever possible, researching rare leather, stitching patterns, and padding for historical fidelity, while Mike prepared frames and structural supports for partial replacement. And Avery revised the timeline and budget to accommodate the intricate interior work, ensuring that no detail was overlooked. And as night fell over Rust Valley, the workshop glowed under fluorescent lights, alive with movement, noise, and focused energy, and every minor triumph, a polished hubcap, freed bolt, cleaned component, was celebrated because in this valley, restoration was as much about conquering challenges as about achieving technical excellence, and the golden Bel Air, though still imperfect, radiated potential, reflecting the team's effort, sweat, and dedication, and in quiet moments between labor, Jackson plotted video sequences, envisioning dramatic reveals, storytelling arcs, and audience engagement, while Mike evaluated the mechanical integrity of newly restored sections, and Avery ensured the process remained documented and efficient, cross-referencing timelines, suppliers, and labor allocations, because in Rust Valley, organization underpinned creativity and ambition, and by the end of the night, the Bel Air had transformed further, engine components cleaned, aligned, partially reassembled, wiring prepped for restoration, chrome polished, and interior ready for meticulous attention, and the car seemed almost alive, a sentinel of history and possibility, its golden curves reflecting both the tangible labor and the intangible passion invested by Jackson, Mike, and Avery. And as they paused to survey their work, exhaustion and exhilaration mingling on their faces, the intoxicating pull of gold fever gripped them, demanding continued focus, devotion, and perseverance, because once caught in Rust Valley, the fever never truly released its hold, and as they packed up, organized tools, and locked the shop, Jackson muttered about early morning inspections, Mike recalculated next steps in his mind, and Avery silently approved, knowing the next day would bring further challenges, breakthroughs, and discoveries, because restoration in Rust Valley was never merely about repairing cars. It was about resurrecting history, telling stories, and transforming decay into legend. And as the Golden Bel Air rested under shop lights, reflecting their labor, determination, and obsession, it seemed to hum with potential, a promise that every struggle, breakthrough, and effort would culminate in triumph, a testament to what could be achieved when vision, skill, and relentless dedication collided in the fevered pursuit of automotive legend. And as they finally stepped outside into the crisp night air, the stars above seemed to mirror the flecks of gold on the car, a celestial echo of the passion, creativity, and commitment that defined Rust Valley, a reminder that some pursuits demanded heart, patience, and courage, and that gold fever, once caught, propelled those it touched ever deeper into restoration, history, and the relentless, exhilarating chaos that turned ambition into legend. The day at Rust Valley began under a pale, crisp light, each ray catching on the golden curves of the Bel Air and reflecting a shimmer that seemed to intensify the team's anticipation. And Jackson, arriving first, coffee in hand and eyes already scanning online auctions, forums, and private listings, was consumed by the hunt for rare parts and components, from chrome trims to original engine pieces, while Mike followed with his toolbox and a practical intensity, crouching beside the car to examine welds, frame alignment, and areas of rust that needed reinforcement, calculating labor and material requirements for the day's ambitious agenda. And Avery, notebook open, pen poised, mapped out the day's workflow, adjusting schedules, delivery times, and contingency plans, ensuring the team could balance Jackson's visionary impulses with the mechanical realities of the restoration, because in Rust Valley, foresight and preparation were as essential as skill and passion. And as they settled into their rhythm, the shop seemed to vibrate with energy, the clanging of metal, hiss of compressors, and whir of grinders creating a symphony of intent, while the Bel Air, center stage, radiated a promise that both inspired and challenged them. And today's goal was particularly daring, reassembling the engine while addressing rust, corrosion, alignment, and wiring integrity. A multifaceted challenge that demanded coordination, precision, and patience. And Jackson, bursting with ideas, outlined potential approaches, some drawn from obscure online tutorials, others from intuition, gesturing animatedly, while Mike executed each step with measured care, monitoring stress points and metal fatigue, ensuring the car's structural integrity remained uncompromised. And Avery documented each procedure in her notebook, cataloging adjustments, measurements, and outcomes, because in Rust Valley, detailed records could mean the difference between seamless restoration and costly setbacks. And as the morning unfolded, the team encountered their first significant hurdle. The carburetor, corroded and partially seized, resisted disassembly, threatening to slow progress and test their patience. And Jackson, inspired but inexperienced in this component, experimented with solvent applications and gentle taps, while Mike demonstrated the proper procedures, explaining tolerances, alignment, and timing. And Avery carefully logged each action, documenting dimensions, wear, and anticipated next steps, because even minor errors could cascade into extensive repairs. And as sunlight streamed through the shop windows, highlighting dust motes like tiny golden embers, Jackson discovered a faint manufacturer's engraving within the engine bay and insisted it be featured in the video, while Mike photographed and cataloged it, and Avery recorded its exact measurements and condition, integrating this information into restoration priorities, because in Rust Valley, authenticity was everything, and overlooked details could undermine the integrity of the work. And by mid-afternoon, progress was visible. Engine components cleaned and partially reassembled, critical bolts freed, rust treated, and minor repairs executed, while the Bel Air's golden panels gleamed faintly under shop lights, reflecting the team's effort and dedication. And Jackson's filming captured sparks from welding, the subtle gleam of polished chrome, and the intensity of hands at work, weaving a narrative that celebrated both the car's history and the labor required to restore it, while Mike verified each component, ensuring alignment and function. And Avery meticulously tracked every part, workflow, and supplier, recalculating timelines whenever unexpected challenges arose, because in Rust Valley, planning was as important as skill, and precision often determined success, and as afternoon turned to evening, the team confronted a particularly delicate task: restoring the interior with leather. Cracked, padding rotted, and original stitching brittle and faded, demanding careful restoration and partial replacement, and Jackson, obsessed with authenticity, sourced rare leather, threads, and padding, while Mike reinforced seat frames and prepared structural supports, and Avery integrated the interior work into the overall schedule, calculating labor hours, part delivery, and costs, ensuring that no step was overlooked because Gold Fever required both passion and rigorous planning. And as night fell over the shop, the workshop glowed with energy, alive with motion, noise, and concentration. Every minor victory, a polished hubcap, freed bolt, clean trim, feeling monumental, because in Rust Valley, the process was as important as the result, and the Bel Air, despite imperfections, reflected the effort, sweat, and skill poured into it, while Jackson energized storyboard video sequences, planning dramatic reveals and narrative arcs. Mike evaluated mechanical integrity, and Avery cross-referenced supplier timelines, workflow, and labor allocation, ensuring progress remained smooth and organized. And as the night deepened, the Bel Air's transformation was tangible. Engine components cleaned, partially reassembled, wiring prepped, chrome polished, interior awaiting careful attention, and the car seemed almost alive, a sentinel of history, resilience, and potential, reflecting the labor and obsession of its caretakers. And as they paused to catch their breath, Jackson, coffee in hand, reviewed footage and notes, planning the next day's ambitious schedule, while Mike ran technical scenarios in his mind, anticipating challenges, and Avery silently approved, aware that the following day would demand continued focus, problem-solving, and endurance, because in Rust Valley, restoration was never just repair. It was resurrection, storytelling, and a transformation of decay into legend. And as the team finally cleaned up, organized tools, and locked the shop, Jackson muttered about early inspections, Mike considered structural checks and welding sequences, and Avery adjusted her timeline, fully aware that Gold Fever's grip would propel them ever forward, deeper into restoration, history, and the exhilarating chaos of turning ambition into automotive legend. And the Golden Bel Air, resting under shop lights, reflected their labor, determination, and obsession, almost humming with possibility, a silent promise that every struggle, breakthrough, and effort would culminate in triumph, a testament to the power of vision, skill, and relentless dedication. And as the trio stepped into the crisp night air, the stars above mirrored the flecks of gold on the car, echoing the passion, creativity, and commitment that defined Rust Valley, reminding them that Gold Fever, once caught, demanded complete surrender, propelling those it touched ever deeper into the pursuit of restoration, history, and legend itself. The morning in Rust Valley dawned with a crystalline clarity that seemed to set the Golden Bel Air aglow even before the team arrived, and Jackson, already at the shop, coffee in hand and fingers flying across his laptop, combed through auction sites, collector forums, and obscure listings for the rarest components needed to continue the legendary restoration, every new lead igniting a spark of anticipation and obsession. While Mike, toolbox in hand and sleeves rolled up, crouched beside the car, his hands moving over bolts, brackets, and rusted panels with a practiced eye, calculating the labor and materials needed to reinforce the frame, realign the suspension, and address decades of neglect. And Avery, notebook open and pen poised, mapped out the day's priorities, delivery schedules, and contingency plans, carefully balancing Jackson's visionary ideas with the practical realities of mechanical work and part availability, because in Rust Valley, preparation was as critical as skill or passion. And as the morning hours ticked by, the workshop came alive with motion and sound, the hiss of compressors, the hum of grinders, the clang of metal, punctuating the team's rhythm and the promise of progress, while the Bel Air, center stage, gleamed beneath layers of grime and rust, a living testament to history, neglect, and potential. And today's challenge was particularly complex. The engine, though partially freed from corrosion and disassembled, required meticulous cleaning, realignment, and partial reassembly, while the transmission, previously stubborn, demanded careful verification, and the wiring harness, brittle and corroded, had to be delicately repaired or replaced without compromising authenticity. And Jackson, fueled by the fever of possibility, outlined experimental approaches with enthusiasm, some inspired by online resources, some by intuition, while Mike executed each procedure with painstaking care, monitoring stress points, alignment, and tolerances. And Avery recorded each step, adjustment, and measurement in her ever-present notebook, because in Rust Valley, detailed documentation was essential for both efficiency and historical fidelity. And as the morning gave way to afternoon, the team faced a particularly stubborn obstacle. The carburetor, seized by decades of corrosion, resisted disassembly, threatening to slow progress, and Jackson, eager but inexperienced with this component, experimented with solvents and gentle taps, while Mike guided the process with precision, explaining timing, alignment, and tolerances, and Avery meticulously recorded each measurement, adjustment, and outcome, integrating it into the restoration plan because even small mistakes could result in costly delays. And as sunlight poured through the dusty windows, highlighting flecks of gold in the car's faded paint, Jackson noticed a faint original manufacturer's engraving in the engine bay and insisted it be featured in their documentation, while Mike photographed and cataloged the detail, and Avery took careful measurements, noting the condition and incorporating the information into restoration priorities, because in Rust Valley, authenticity was paramount, and every overlooked detail could compromise the integrity of the work. And by mid-afternoon, tangible progress was evident. Engine components cleaned and partially reassembled, critical bolts freed, minor rust repaired, transmission alignment verified, and preliminary tests suggested functionality, while the Bel Air's curves, golden despite wear and oxidation, reflected the labor and dedication invested, and Jackson's filming captured sparks from welding, polished chrome, and focused hands, weaving a story that celebrated the intersection of history, labor, and triumph, while Mike verified mechanical precision and Avery tracked workflow, parts, and supplier schedules, recalculating timelines as unforeseen challenges arose, because in Rust Valley, foresight and adaptability were as crucial as talent, and precision often determined success. And as afternoon faded into evening, the team turned to the car's interior. Leather cracked, padding rotted, stitching faded. A delicate balance of restoration and replacement required, and Jackson, obsessed with authenticity, sourced rare leather, threads, and padding, while Mike reinforced seat frames and prepared partial replacements, and Avery updated the timeline and budget, ensuring the interior work fits seamlessly into the overall schedule. Because Gold Fever demanded not only creativity and labor, but meticulous planning, and as night enveloped the workshop, fluorescent lights cast the Bel Air's curves into sharp relief, illuminating every gleam of polished chrome, every shadow of rust, and the concentrated expressions of hands at work. And each minor victory, a freed bolt, a polished trim, a cleaned component, was celebrated as monumental, because in Rust Valley, the process was as significant as the outcome. And the Bel Air, though still imperfect, radiated possibility, reflecting the team's effort, skill, and obsession. And in quiet intervals between labor, Jackson plotted video sequences, envisioning dramatic reveals and story arcs. Mike ran technical calculations, anticipating mechanical issues, and Avery cross-referenced suppliers, timelines, and workflow, ensuring smooth progress, because in Rust Valley, organization underpinned creativity and achievement. And by nightfall, the car had transformed visibly, engine partially reassembled and cleaned, wiring prepped, chrome polished, interior prepped for careful attention, and the Bel Air seemed almost alive, a sentinel of history, resilience, and potential, reflecting the labor and obsession of its caretakers. And as they paused to survey their work, exhaustion and exhilaration mingled. The intoxicating pull of gold fever gripped them, demanding focus, patience, and dedication, because once caught, there was no escape, only forward motion into restoration, history, and legend. And as they cleaned up, organized tools, and locked the shop, Jackson muttered plans for early inspections. Mike calculated welding and alignment priorities, and Avery adjusted timelines, fully aware the next day would bring new challenges, breakthroughs, and discoveries, because restoration in Rust Valley was never merely repair. It was resurrection, storytelling, and the transformation of decay into legend. And the Golden Bel Air, resting under shop lights, reflected their labor, determination, and obsession, humming with potential, a silent promise that every struggle, breakthrough, and effort would culminate in triumph, a testament to what could be achieved when vision, skill, and relentless dedication collided in the fevered pursuit of automotive legend. And as the trio stepped outside into the cool night, stars above mirrored flecks of gold on the car, echoing the passion, creativity, and commitment that defined Rust Valley, reminding them that gold fever, once caught, propelled those it touched ever deeper into the pursuit of restoration, history, and legend itself. The dawn broke over Rust Valley with a pale, crystalline light that seemed to set the Golden Bel Air aglow, and Jackson, arriving first, coffee in hand and eyes already scanning rare parts auctions, forums, and private listings, felt the familiar surge of gold fever, the irresistible pull of restoration, history, and the promise of triumph, while Mike, toolbox in tow, crouched beside the car, running gloved hands over bolts, panels, and rusted frame sections, calculating labor, structural integrity, and alignment, determining which components could be salvaged, which required fabrication, and which demanded careful replacement. And Avery, notebook open, pen poised, mapped the day's workflow, delivery schedules, and contingency plans, balancing Jackson's visionary impulses with the practical realities of the mechanical work and parts availability, because in Rust Valley, preparation was as essential as skill or passion. And as the morning unfolded, the workshop came alive with sound and motion, the hiss of compressors, the clang of metal, the hum of grinders, and the Bel Air, center stage, reflected light in ways that seemed almost sentient, the car itself whispering promises of history resurrected. And today's challenge was particularly daunting, completing the engine assembly, addressing corrosion, alignment, and wiring integrity, while simultaneously preparing the interior for delicate restoration, a task demanding precision, patience, and coordination. And Jackson, inspired and restless, outlined several experimental techniques gleaned from forums and old manuals, gesturing enthusiastically, while Mike executed each step with methodical care, monitoring stress points, tolerances, and the risk of damage. And Avery recorded every procedure, measurement, and adjustment in her notebook, ensuring that no detail was overlooked, because in Rust Valley, meticulous documentation often determined the difference between triumph and setback. And as mid-morning approached, the team faced a particularly stubborn obstacle. The carburetor, corroded and partially seized, refused to disassemble cleanly, threatening to derail progress. And Jackson, eager but inexperienced, experimented with solvent applications and gentle tapping, while Mike guided him through proper techniques, explaining timing, alignment, and tolerances. And Avery documented each adjustment, outcome, and measurement, integrating it into the restoration plan, because even minor errors could cascade into extended delays. And as sunlight streamed through the dusty shop windows, highlighting specks of gold in the car's faded paint, Jackson discovered a faint original engraving inside the engine bay and insisted it be prominently recorded for authenticity, while Mike photographed and cataloged it, and Avery took precise measurements, noting its condition and significance for the restoration priorities. Because in Rust Valley, authenticity was paramount, and every overlooked detail risked compromising the integrity of the work. And by afternoon, progress became evident. Engine components cleaned, partially reassembled, bolts freed, minor rust treated, transmission alignment verified, preliminary tests suggesting functionality, while the Bel Air's golden panels gleamed faintly under the lights, reflecting the team's labor, sweat, and devotion, and Jackson filmed every spark, polished chrome reflection, and focused hand, crafting a story that celebrated the convergence of history, challenge, and triumph, while Mike verified alignment, torque, and component performance, and Avery meticulously tracked workflow, supplier schedules, and labor allocation, recalculating timelines whenever complications arose, because in Rust Valley, precision and planning were as vital as talent or vision, and as afternoon faded into evening, attention shifted to the interior, leather cracked, padding rotted, stitching brittle and faded, demanding delicate restoration. And partial replacement, and Jackson, driven by authenticity, sourced rare leather, thread, and padding, while Mike prepared seat frames for partial restoration, and Avery adjusted the timeline and budget to accommodate the complex work, ensuring that progress remained seamless, because Gold Fever demanded both creativity and rigorous organization, and as night enveloped the shop, fluorescent lights cast sharp relief across the Bel Air's curves, highlighting polished chrome, lingering rust, and the concentrated focus of hands at work. And each minor triumph, a freed bolt, a polished trim, a cleaned component, felt monumental, because in Rust Valley, the journey was as significant as the result, and the Bel Air, though still imperfect, radiated possibility, reflecting the team's labor, skill, and obsession, and in quiet intervals, Jackson storyboard video sequences, imagining dramatic reveals, while Mike analyzed mechanical integrity, anticipating next steps, and Avery cross-referenced suppliers, labor, and timelines to ensure smooth progress, because organization underpinned creativity and success. And by nightfall, the car had transformed further. Engine partially assembled, wiring prepped, chrome polished, interior awaiting attention, and the Bel Air seemed almost alive, a sentinel of history, resilience, and potential, reflecting the labor, devotion, and obsession of its caretakers, and as they paused to survey their progress, exhaustion and exhilaration mingling, the intoxicating pull of Gold Fever gripped them, demanding focus, patience, and total dedication, because once caught, there was no escape, only the relentless pursuit of restoration, history, and legend, and as the team cleaned up, organized tools, and locked the shop, Jackson muttered plans for early morning inspections, Mike calculated welding, alignment, and restoration priorities, and Avery adjusted timelines, fully aware that the next day would bring new discoveries, challenges, and breakthroughs. Because restoration in Rust Valley was never merely repair, it was resurrection, storytelling, and the transformation of decay into legend, and the golden Bel Air, resting under shop lights, reflected their labor, determination, and obsession, humming with potential, a silent promise that every struggle, breakthrough, and effort would culminate in triumph, a testament to what could be achieved when vision, skill, and relentless dedication collided in the fevered pursuit of automotive legend. And as the trio stepped into the crisp night air, the stars above mirrored the flecks of gold on the car, echoing the passion, creativity, and commitment that defined Rust Valley, reminding them that Gold Fever, once caught, propelled those it touched ever deeper into the pursuit of restoration, history, and legend itself, and the quiet night seemed to hold the promise of tomorrow's challenges, victories, and stories yet to unfold. The morning in Rust Valley broke with a pale, invigorating light, casting long shadows across the shop floor and illuminating the golden curves of the Bel Air like a relic waiting to be awakened, and Jackson, already present, coffee in hand and laptop open, scrolled through online auctions, obscure forums, and private listings in search of rare parts, from chrome trims to engine components, each potential acquisition fueling the fever that had taken hold of him, while Mike, toolbox at his side, crouched beside the car, fingers gliding over bolts, brackets, and rusted frame sections, calculating labor, structural integrity, and alignment, assessing which components could be salvaged, which required fabrication, and which demanded careful replacement, and Avery, notebook open and pen poised, mapped out the day's priorities, delivery schedules, and contingencies, carefully balancing Jackson's visionary impulses with the practical realities of mechanical work and parts availability. Because in Rust Valley, foresight was as crucial as skill, and as the morning progressed, the shop came alive with sound. The hiss of compressors, the whir of grinders, the occasional clang of metal, all punctuating the rhythm of labor, while the Bel Air sat at the center, its golden body catching glimmers of light, reflecting both neglect and the promise of resurrection. And today's challenge was formidable, completing the engine assembly, addressing corrosion, wiring integrity and alignment, while preparing the interior for delicate restoration, a multifaceted task that demanded patience, precision, and coordination. And Jackson, energized by the possibilities, outlined several experimental techniques gleaned from forums, manuals, and personal intuition, gesturing animatedly, while Mike executed each step with careful precision, monitoring stress points, tolerances, and the risk of damage. And Avery meticulously documented every procedure, measurement, and adjustment in her notebook, ensuring no detail was overlooked, because in Rust Valley, meticulous documentation could mean the difference between success and setback. And by mid-morning, the team encountered a stubborn obstacle. The carburetor, corroded and partially seized, resisted disassembly, threatening to slow the day's progress. And Jackson, eager yet inexperienced, applied solvents and gentle taps, while Mike guided him with patience, explaining alignment, timing, and tolerances. And Avery recorded each adjustment, outcome, and measurement, integrating the information into the restoration plan, because even minor missteps could cascade into significant delays. And as sunlight streamed through the dusty shop windows, highlighting flecks of gold in the faded paint, Jackson discovered a faint manufacturer's engraving inside the engine bay and insisted it be prominently documented for authenticity, while Mike photographed and cataloged it, and Avery recorded precise measurements and condition notes, incorporating them into the restoration priorities, because authenticity was paramount in Rust Valley, and every overlooked detail risked compromising the integrity of the work. And by afternoon, tangible progress emerged. Engine components cleaned and partially reassembled, critical bolts freed, minor rust repaired, transmission alignment verified, preliminary tests indicating functionality, while the Bel Air's golden panels gleamed faintly under shop lights, reflecting labor, dedication, and skill. And Jackson's camera captured sparks from welding, polished chrome, and hands at work, weaving a narrative that celebrated history, labor, and triumph, while Mike verified mechanical alignment and performance, and Avery meticulously tracked workflow, supplier schedules, and labor allocations, recalculating timelines whenever unexpected challenges arose, because in Rust Valley, planning and precision were as vital as skill and vision. And as afternoon faded into evening, focus shifted to the interior, leather cracked, padding rotted, stitching brittle, requiring delicate restoration and partial replacement. And Jackson, obsessed with authenticity, sourced rare leather, thread, and padding, while Mike prepared seat frames and reinforcements, and Avery adjusted the timeline and budget to accommodate the complex work, ensuring that progress remained seamless, because gold fever demanded creativity, labor, and meticulous planning. And as night descended, fluorescent lights cast sharp relief across the Bel Air's curves, highlighting polished chrome, lingering rust, and the intensity of hands at work. And each minor victory, a freed bolt, polished trim, cleaned component, felt monumental, because in Rust Valley, the journey was as significant as the result. And the Bel Air, though still imperfect, radiated possibility, reflecting the team's labor, skill, and obsession. And in quiet moments, Jackson storyboard video sequences, imagining dramatic reveals and storytelling arcs. Mike analyzed mechanical integrity, anticipating potential issues, and Avery cross-referenced suppliers, workflow, and labor to ensure seamless progress, because organization underpinned creativity and success. And by nightfall, the car had visibly transformed, engine partially assembled, wiring prepped, chrome polished, interior ready for detailed attention, and the Bel Air seemed almost alive, a sentinel of history, resilience, and potential, reflecting the labor, devotion, and obsession of its caretakers. And as they paused to survey their work, exhaustion and exhilaration mingled. The intoxicating pull of gold fever gripped them, demanding focus, patience, and total dedication, because once caught, there was no escape, only relentless pursuit of restoration, history, and legend. And as the team cleaned up, organized tools, and locked the shop, Jackson muttered plans for early inspections. Mike calculated welding, alignment, and restoration priorities, and Avery adjusted timelines, fully aware that the next day would bring new discoveries, challenges, and breakthroughs, because restoration in Rust Valley was never simply repair. It was resurrection, storytelling, and the transformation of decay into legend. And the Golden Bel Air, resting under shop lights, reflected their labor, determination, and obsession, humming with potential, a silent promise that every struggle, breakthrough, and effort would culminate in triumph, a testament to what could be achieved when vision, skill, and relentless dedication collided in the fevered pursuit of automotive legend. And as the trio stepped into the crisp night air, stars above mirrored flecks of gold on the car, echoing the passion, creativity, and commitment that defined Rust Valley, reminding them that gold fever, once caught, propelled those it touched ever deeper into the pursuit of restoration, history, and legend itself. And the quiet night held the promise of tomorrow's challenges, victories, and stories yet to unfold. The first light of dawn spilled over Rust Valley, illuminating the Golden Bel Air in a way that made every curve and dent a testament to time, neglect, and the potential for resurrection. And Jackson, arriving early as always, coffee in hand and laptop open, scoured auction sites, collector forums, and private listings for elusive parts, from chrome trims to specialized engine components, each discovery fueling the relentless fever that had taken hold of him, while Mike, toolbox at his side and eyes sharp with focus, crouched beside the car, fingers gliding over bolts, brackets, and rusted panels, calculating labor, structural integrity, and alignment, deciding which components could be salvaged, which required careful fabrication, and which demanded precise replacement. And Avery, notebook open and pen poised, mapped out the day's workflow, delivery schedules, and contingency plans, balancing Jackson's visionary impulses with the practical realities of mechanical work and parts availability, because in Rust Valley, preparation was as critical as skill. And as morning turned to late morning, the shop came alive with a symphony of sound, the hiss of compressors, the hum of grinders, the occasional clang of metal, all punctuating the rhythm of labor, while the Bel Air sat at the center, golden yet weathered, reflecting both neglect and the promise of triumph. And today's goal was monumental: completing the engine assembly, addressing corrosion, wiring integrity, and alignment, while simultaneously finalizing interior restoration, a delicate dance that demanded coordination, patience, and precision. And Jackson, brimming with ideas, outlined experimental approaches, some inspired by rare manuals and forums, others drawn from instinct, while Mike executed each step with meticulous care, monitoring stress points, tolerances, and the risk of damage. And Avery recorded every procedure, measurement, and adjustment, ensuring no detail would be overlooked, because in Rust Valley, thorough documentation could mean the difference between success and failure. And as mid-morning approached, they faced a formidable challenge. The carburetor, long corroded, refused to disassemble cleanly, threatening to derail progress. And Jackson, eager yet inexperienced, applied solvents and gentle taps, while Mike instructed with patience and precision, explaining tolerances, timing, and alignment. And Avery documented every step, measurement, and adjustment, integrating the data into the restoration plan, because even minor errors could cascade into major delays. And as sunlight poured through dusty windows, catching flecks of gold in the paint, Jackson discovered the faint original manufacturer's engraving in the engine bay and insisted it be featured prominently for authenticity, while Mike photographed and cataloged it, and Avery recorded measurements, condition, and notes, integrating them into the restoration priorities. Because in Rust Valley, Authenticity was paramount, and overlooked details could compromise the integrity of the project, and by early afternoon, tangible progress emerged. Engine components cleaned and partially reassembled, critical bolts freed, minor rust treated, transmission alignment verified, preliminary tests showing promising function, while the Bel Air's golden panels glimmered faintly under the fluorescent lights, reflecting labor, dedication, and skill. And Jackson filmed every spark, polished chrome, and hand at work, crafting a narrative that celebrated history, challenge, and triumph. While Mike verified mechanical alignment, torque, and performance, and Avery meticulously tracked workflow, supplier schedules, and labor allocations, recalculating timelines whenever unexpected complications arose, because in Rust Valley, planning, precision, and foresight were as vital as talent. And as afternoon shifted into evening, focus turned to the interior. Leather cracked, padding rotted, stitching fragile, requiring careful restoration and partial replacement, and Jackson, determined to preserve authenticity, sourced rare leather, thread, and padding, while Mike prepared seat frames and reinforcements, and Avery adjusted schedules and budgets, ensuring that the interior work seamlessly fit into the restoration process, because Gold Fever demanded creativity, labor, and meticulous organization. And as night enveloped the workshop, fluorescent lights cast dramatic shadows across the Bel Air, highlighting polished chrome, lingering rust, and the concentration etched on every face at work, and each minor victory, a freed bolt, polished trim, cleaned component, felt monumental, because in Rust Valley, the process was as significant as the outcome, and the Bel Air, though still imperfect, radiated potential, reflecting the team's labor, skill, and obsession. And in the quieter moments, Jackson storyboarded final video sequences, imagining dramatic reveals, while Mike analyzed mechanical integrity, anticipating final adjustments, and Avery cross-referenced suppliers, workflow, and labor allocations to ensure a smooth path to completion, because organization underpinned creativity and achievement. And by nightfall, the car had visibly transformed. Engine fully assembled, wiring secured, chrome polished to a mirror sheen, interior completed with meticulous care, and the Bel Air seemed almost alive, a sentinel of history, resilience, and possibility, reflecting the labor, dedication, and obsession of its caretakers. And as they paused to admire their work, exhaustion and exhilaration mingled. The intoxicating pull of Gold Fever gripped them, demanding focus, patience, and total dedication, because once caught, there was no escape, only the relentless pursuit of restoration, history, and legend. And as the team cleaned up, organized tools, and dimmed the lights, Jackson muttered plans for final inspections and video shoots. Mike calculated welding, alignment, and tuning priorities. And Avery updated timelines, fully aware that this final stretch would solidify weeks of labor, because restoration in Rust Valley was never merely repair. It was resurrection, storytelling, and the transformation of decay into legend. And the golden Bel Air, resting under shop lights, reflected their effort, determination, and obsession, humming with potential, a silent promise that every struggle, breakthrough, and effort had culminated in triumph, a testament to what could be achieved when vision, skill, and relentless dedication collided in the fevered pursuit of automotive legend. And as the trio stepped outside into the crisp night air, stars above mirrored the flecks of gold on the car, echoing passion, creativity, and commitment, reminding them that Gold Fever, once caught, propelled those it touched ever deeper into the pursuit of restoration, history, and legend itself. And the quiet night seemed to hold the echoes of every challenge overcome, every spark of inspiration, and every moment of triumph, a fitting conclusion to their fevered, relentless, and ultimately victorious pursuit.